hand was up first?
I saw Chris's first.
I'd like to nominate Mark Richard.
Okay. Any other nominations, Mr. Forbes?
Nominate Roy Forbes.
Okay. Any other nominations? That said, without any other nominations, I'm going to close the floor for further nominations this time. And we'll start with the order that the nominations were made. I'd like to see a show of hands for those who vote for Mr. Richard to be the chair of the Pitt County Board of Education. If you please raise your right hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I count 6. That motion does not carry. At this time, we're going to go to the next nominee, being Mr. Forbes. At this time, I'd like to ask those who are in favor of Mr. Forbes as the chair, please raise your right hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I count 6. That motion also does not carry. Per Robert's rules, we continue on voting. We go back to the first nominee unless somebody wants to reopen the floor for nominations or call for a brief recess or have a discussion. If not, at this time, I'm going to ask then for those in favor of Mr. Richard as the chair. Again, if you would please raise your right hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. Again, this time, I'm going to ask those in favor of Mr. Forbes as the chair, please raise your right hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Again, it's a motion does not carry. I'm just going to suggest as the acting chair whether you want to have any discussion this time, or do you want to open the floor again for nominations, or otherwise. If not, we can continue with Roberts to vote, but I'm trying to make this productive as the acting chair.
I move that we open for discussion.
Okay. Well, I don't know if we need actually a motion, if you want to discuss right now. Jill?
I would like to urge all of us to think carefully about how we best move forward in a united way under a leadership that can do that for us.
Mr. Chair, acting chair,
Yes.
I echo those sentiments exactly.
Okay. Anybody else want to have any more comments? Ms. Owens?
I think we're at a crossroads here, people. The 12 of us, and Ralph, it's good to have you back. I think this is our opportunity to come together, the 12 of us, and we need to serve the people out there, the children, and not ourselves. This is about others. We're elected to serve others, not self-serving, not trying to come in here with an ulterior motive. It's to come in with an open heart and serve. And that's what I intend to do as we continue through this process.
Mr. Richard?
I sought this seat on the school board as a professional educator by day and school board member by night. And when I first came on this board about 2 years ago, I had to take a long look in terms of the amount of time, that it takes away from my family, but two, what could I offer to Pitt County schools? And I'll be honest with you, I'm a little bit disappointed in terms of the past 2 years and some of the areas that I've kind of let go lacking and the attention I have not necessarily paid to the children. And when I say children of Pitt County schools. And there's a lot of big ticket items on the table right now in public schools in North Carolina. And those of you that know me know that I'm not afraid to hold back in terms of saying what's right. And teachers, one, have too much put on them. The expectation is very high in terms of what the legislature expects. And I am willing to speak out and to say, where possible, that some of these things are not right. Our teachers are working harder than they ever have. And with new MSLs, new Common Core state standards, I work in it every single day. And that's not to say, certainly Mr. Forbes is not a very intelligent young man, but I think we need to find a way. This has been one of the most divided environments I have been in my entire life. In my job as a principal, the superintendents from Dale Burns to the current superintendent in our district have put me in places of buildings where there has been divisiveness, poor test scores. And within each time, within 2 years, I've been able to turn that around in terms of one, building a family, a cohesive unit. And when people, several people from the community that I represent, some elected officials, some people on this board, some people just community folk, asked me to think about being chairman, I didn't give it much thought. And I prayed about it, and I thought long and hard about it. And I want you to know the only reason I'm agreeing to do this is not for some title of chairman, because I could care less. I have enough hats to wear, enough things to do on a daily basis. But I do want to right some wrongs. I do want to make this the highest performing district that I possibly can, and care about people, care about relationships, and to look after each other. It doesn't need to be this side against this side anymore. And if I played a role in that in the past, then that's the past, and that's going to have to be. But we all have a seat around this table. And as one elected official in this county said, the people elected us to do these jobs. And if we can't do them, we need to step aside. And I'm reaffirming to myself that I'm going to do this job, and I'm going to look out after the people, whether they're pre-K to a senior, whether they're a bus driver or a senior level administrator in this district. As long as they're doing their job, I'm going to make it my business to support them to the highest degree possible. And where someone's falling short, I want to let it be my business to come after them. But the serious business here is we've got to do a better job. People look at us when they look around this table, whether it's one of us that's doing something improper or 12 of us that are doing something improper, we're all called the board. When one of us is called out in the news, it's not that individual. More often than not, it's the board. And I can tell you, I work in a school district where the board could not get along better. It's a great group of people, 7 people. And every meeting that I sit in with them, the second Monday of the month, they have a good time, they work together, and educational achievement is at the forefront. And that's what we've got to start doing. If not, we're shortchanging the kids, we're shortchanging the people that put us here.
Ms. Williams, I believe you got a comment.
Yes, I did. There's 2 things that, 2 reasons, basically, I voted for Mr. Forbes. One is that the opinion of Bishop Ralph Love is very important to me. I still feel right now, if it was not for his health problems, that tonight we'd be voting for Bishop Ralph Love to become the board chair. And I think each and every one of us know that. And upon speaking with him and holding his opinion in high regard is my first reason that I voted for Mr. Forbes, because of his confidence in him. The second reason is I really don't feel that Mark can do the job as a chair, because the chairperson has to be on the same plane with our superintendent, our board attorney, and our other administrators throughout the central office. It has to do that at the call of emergencies, have to be at the call of our local students in our community. And Mark works full-time and works in another county. And I don't think Mark's experience as a principal, even though he has done some major work that's held in high regard throughout our district, Worth has been associate superintendent in our schools. He has served our county and our students well. And all of those things I took into consideration when I put forth my vote for Mr. Forbes. So any issue of bipartisanship or I think some of the words that were used were dysfunction amongst the board and all of those things. We have to do what we have to do in the best interest of all our students. And I don't think Mark has the experience nor the time to get those things done. And I think Mr. Forbes is our best person for the job at this time. And we're at a, like Mark said, a crossroads in servicing our students in our county. And I think it's important for that person to be accessible at all times and working 7 to 5 every day, making sure that another county's students perform at their level best and making sure what's in the best interest of our students should come first. And I think Mr. Forbes is able to give us that type of service, you know, as his tenure if he is elected board chair.
Ms. Waters?
Within the last several months, Mr. Forbes has taken on a position as the pastor at the Aiden Free Will Baptist Church, I believe, which means that he is working 7 days a week on a job. I remember Mark Richard when he was a little thing in the 9th grade in my homeroom.
I've never been little.
Never been well. I have continually been amazed at the breadth of his knowledge, not just in the workings of the county, but in the state, in the programs. I have always thought that he had a wealth of knowledge. I don't know where in the world it springs from. But he is a man that I do feel that I could work for. For the sake of the board and the school system, I think we need to seriously look at the prospect that we do not need to have another year of what we've had the past 2. We need to look for leadership that will include every member of the board, who will not take offense to other people's opinions, and certainly would not take part in what I would have to call intimidation of another board member, as Mr. Forbes did find himself involved in. I think his close association with the previous administration and his steadfast agenda leave his motives perhaps wanting, and I, for one, would like to see some team building. I'd like to see full participation of the board. I would like to see enough diverse representation that people could get a reasonable hearing, student, transfer, employee. And there are a lot of things that have been going on for the last 2 years that if you choose to ignore them, I don't think the voters are going to. And I support Mark Richard for this position.
Any other comment at this time from any other board member?
Acting Chair, I'd just like to say that I appreciate everybody around this table that chose to serve. And I appreciate the opportunity that the constituents in Southern Pitt County gave to me to be one of those to serve. And I've been in education for 35 and a half years. I've seen it all. And I will tell you that there's not a person of more integrity, character, truth, and loyalty than Worth Forbes. And Worth Forbes can move this board forward and I keep hearing divisiveness, and I keep hearing those kinds of, I heard a word, dysfunctionality, and I understand that. But at the same time, Mr. Acting Chair, if I could, Pitt County Schools over the last 2 years, the first school district in the state to implement system-wide the new Reading 3D assessment program for grades K through 5. Pitt County Schools accredited with advanced education as a quality school system. The Pitt County Board of Education established a moment of silence that Worth Forbes led the charge on at the beginning of each day in all schools in order to foster an environment conducive to learning. The annual dropout rate for Pitt County schools decreased to 4.31, representing a 37% reduction over the last 2 years. According to the 2011-2012 ABCs of Public Education report, nearly 91.4%, 32 out of 35 schools in Pitt County schools met expected growth, and 57.1, 20 out of 35% met high academic growth. The 2012 four-year cohort graduation rate for Pitt County schools is at 73.2%, the highest in the district's history. The Pitt County Board of Education maintained existing K-8 schools. Oh, how the people in Griffin and Chicago and Sheehaw Whitfield really appreciate that. Throughout the district, the Board of Education found savings of approximately $1 million in local budget to help offset state budget reductions. And we were one of only a few systems in this state that did not have to let faculty and staff go in a tough economy. The Board of Education continues to work toward attaining unitary status. The district secured funding from the Farm Bureau of Pitt County to sponsor the Teacher of the Year and Principal and Assistant Principal of the Year programs for 3 consecutive years. That's a good group. It's a frugal group. You get it out of them for 3 years in a row. That's progress. That's unity. That's support. Pitt County Schools established a biodiesel for schools program that works with local restaurants to gather used cooking oil and provides Pitt County Schools with additional income estimated at approximately $60,000 per year thus far. We've expanded our CTE programs. We've expanded the agriculture program to North Pitt High School. Despite being cut 6 months of employment in CTE, the total career technical education in this program continues to advance. Teachers are proud of that. The community is proud of that. They rally around that. There's unity in that. As part of the long-range facilities plan adopted by the Board of Education in 2009, the following phase programs were approved. Implementing the sewer project at Chicago School, completing the Stokes-Pactola sewers projects, and I could go on and on. I've got a list that we could stay here all night.
Yep.
But I say, wait a minute, I'm not through.
Sorry.
But I say that to say this. Yes, there have been issues where we could have run smoother as a board, but all boards have their challenges. And we're going to come out of this, and we're going to be stronger and with more unity. And I say again that there's an individual here that's been with this school system in many, many capacities. He has the undying support of his community, his church, his fellow educators. He has the time and energy to do this job and do it well. He can work with our superintendent, and she can work with him. And they will be honest with each other. And they'll be very frank and matter of fact with each other. And there's nobody around this table that can do that as well as Worth Forbes. And I wholeheartedly support him again, and at this time request that we take another vote.
Okay. Well, I think we have one more comment. I'm going to allow that person, Ms. Kamens, I believe. Did you want to make a comment?
I've just heard a long, long, long list of accomplishments from Mr. Forrest. And there are times these last 2 years when I felt like that those were accomplishments that were achieved despite us, not because of us. But I don't think anyone would argue that a key component to those accomplishments are our superintendent and our present leadership team outside the board. And as I listened to Benji list all those things, I went back to a vote we had about a year ago where we decided to extend the superintendent's contract. And I do recall that Mr. Forbes voted against that extension, which calls into question in my mind his ability to work with the current leadership of this school system. And I think that most of us around this table are supportive of that leadership. In the conversations that I've had with Mr. Wichard regarding his leadership position on this board, the first thing he talked to me about was finding ways to bring us together and to be able to disagree with each other without taking it personally, but rather talk about issues and not personalities. I think that is our problem in a nutshell, and I believe that Mark can help us find a way to do business with each other in a respectful way that brings dignity back to this board.
There's no other comments at this time, then we're going to do another round of votes. I would say that those in favor for Mr. Wichard to be the chair, if you please will raise your right hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I count 6. At this time, I'm going to ask those in favor of Mr. Forbes as the chair of the Board of Education to please raise your right hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Again, I count 6. Neither of those votes carry. At this time, I suggest some options as the acting chair is to continue the discussion, to brief recess, or to open nominations again if that's the wish. These are just suggestions. You are the board. Are there any other comments at this time by any members?
I'll comment. I mean, this shows divisiveness right here. This is a perfect picture of divisiveness. I think it's important that the board is united and there's integrity has got to be instilled back into the Board of Education. We've got to have some integrity. Right now, we don't have it. And that's just being honest. I do believe that we need to have all board members represented on committees. I think that's very important. I think that we, as a system, need to increase the ranking of Pitt County schools in the top 10%. As the information that was passed out to you, you see we're not in the top 10%. That is very important to me, that is something that we do. We need to continue to strengthen our policies in regards to athletics. That's something that needs to be done. And these are things that I myself believe that need help in, and I can provide the leadership for it. I think that we need to examine our policy pertaining to public expression and allow people to be able to express their opinion up to the matter of the law. But I think we need to look at our policy. Our policy needs to be changed. where when these folks need to speak to about a position, that they would be allowed to say it. We need to strengthen the discipline within our schools. I've mentioned discipline time and time again, over and over, at a lot of our meetings, and nothing's ever done about it. But our teachers are screaming for it, that we do something about it. We need to evaluate programs that we currently have in place that are not effective, and see which ones are working and which ones are not working. And those that are not working, take them away, because the teachers feel like they are bombarded with programs, and they are dealing with programs rather than teaching. We need to work to lessen the amount of paperwork and busy work that so many of our teachers have to do. And these are things that I stand for and always have stood for, based on concerns from parents in the community and people that I've seen in the grocery store and so forth. Cursive writing. They can't believe that we're doing away with cursive writing. Now, maybe the state is recommending it, but that doesn't mean that we have to do away with it. We need to take another look at it. We need to continue to improve on our dropout rate. We need to make sure that all staff members, custodial, bus drivers, cafeteria, that all of our employees are treated fairly and ensure that there is equality throughout this county in how individuals are treated. Because right now, they don't feel that way. They don't have, well, you may think they do. If you do, you're blind. I think we need to continue to focus on ways to improve bullying in our schools. If this Board of Education will sit up here and say that we do not have a problem with bullying in our schools, we're fooling ourselves, because we do. And ensure the safety of students, and also to ensure the safety of the faculty as well, I think is important. And we need to improve communications and working relationship with the superintendent. I've worked with Dr. Reed for years. I've disagreed with Dr. Reed, and she knows that I have. But I've always been able to work with her. Now, I'm a man of conviction. I am someone that you're going to know how I feel. I'm not going to paint a picture of one way and then vote a different way. I felt at the time when we had to vote regarding this extending the superintendent's contract, I voted against it. I'm glad you brought that up, because I want everybody to know that I did vote against it, because I just at that time thought we needed change. We needed new leadership. The majority of the board did not feel that way, but that does not prevent me from working with Dr. Reed. I'm not that type of man. Number one, how in the world can I sit here as a pastor of a church and hear some of the things that individuals have said who don't know my heart? They don't know it. And what I'm speaking to you tonight is, from my heart, is that this board needs to be united. I've stuck with this system for 26 years during education, ran for the Board of Education, won with almost 70%, the highest of any board member in Pitt County. And I'm here to serve the people of this county. That's what I'm put here for, is to serve them in the best way that I feel that I can. And I'm not a yes man. I'll tell you up front, I'm not a yes man. I'm going to do what's best for kids and our employees. That's what I want to be here for, and that's why I'm running for chair.
Ms. Waters?
I'd like to remind the board that Mark Richard was the one who asked Jill and Margaret to join his committee when they were left off all the hearing panels and the committees. I'd also like to point out to the board that Mark Richard has chaired the EPS for 2 years, and it's probably the only committee that's still functioning. We've had more canceled committee meetings since April than we probably had to meet. And the fact that Mr. Forbes accepted positions on almost every committee while the rest of them, most of the board members were shut out, I think reflects badly. And I have no reason to think that voting for him would change anything that's been going on. And there are a lot of things he'd like to see, but I still would like to see School Board 101 come to us. What is the task of the school board? What can we do? As a group, individuals have no rights, can't conduct business. Do any of us have any business meeting with personnel, disgruntled or otherwise? We simply cannot continue business as it's been conducted. Okay.
Ms. Williams?
Christine, I'd like to make a comment on what you just said. You said that Mark has served as chair for 2 years of the EPS committee, and it's the only functioning subcommittee.
That's not true, because yours functions well.
You didn't say that,
I
no.
did not.
No, you did not. And
I'm not on your committee.
That's right.
The committees I represent.
And therein lies the problem. What I'm saying, see, there is, if I hadn't said anything and just let that go, then people would assume, and even my constituents would have assumed that I wasn't working on their behalf. And therein lies a major part of our problem as a board. There's miscommunication here. Because despite the fact that certain board members were not selected to run on these committees, does not mean that the work is not being done, and what we call the grunt work is not being done. So far as HR, transfer committees, which I chair and co-chair, has not missed the meeting. Want to get that correct? Okay, all right, we'll go there.
Thank you for your service. Thank you for correction.
But I'm sure my constituents and employees that we have on a daily basis appreciate it a lot more. And therein lies a problem. Therein lies one of our central problems as a board. Miscommunication, other people assuming things about one another that just are not true. Those numbers that Benji read off, we're getting the work done in spite. In spite. You know, Jill said it's because you got outside, Dr. Emily has outside people doing this. No, it's the board that's getting this done. It's our parents that's getting this done. It's our students that we serve that is getting this done. So a whole lot of misrepresentation, and I've said it more than one time. We don't give ourselves enough credit for the work that we do get accomplished as a board. And certain people, as always, wait till the camera's on before they want to voice their opinion, which 9 out of 10 times out of 10 is a negative opinion most of the time. But I have not had a reason to call Mark on behalf of any work that's being done on my committees, on other people's subcommittee. I haven't seen Mark step up to the plate when called in a pinch, but Worth has done it. And if y'all reevaluate the situation, you know that Worth has done it. And therein lies the problem. Now, yeah, when all this stuff started with Jill and Barbara was excluded from certain subcommittees, that means that those subcommittees were functioning properly. If you don't want to work for the chairman, you're not going to do your best. And therein lies the problem. Y'all didn't want to work for Billy. You let that be known. And the chairman has an opportunity, and he asked all of us what committees we wanted to serve on. If you chose not to serve, you chose not to serve your constituents. So therefore, you chose not to work for Billy. Other people stepped in. Matthew stepped in.
I wasn't asked.
You wasn't asked, Christine. You wasn't asked, but you didn't step forward to say what you really do either.
Just set the record straight.
Yeah.
Just so you know.
But you didn't though. So therefore, you're not really serving your constituents. You got to do stuff when it's uncomfortable. Anyhow, I think one of my board members said we must do our due diligence. And I don't think Mark has shown what I would say an interest to me. He didn't ask. If most of the time, if you're running for any position, you have to ask the people. You have to ask the people what you think, or what your opinion is, or how you feel I might do in all of this. Mark didn't do that. He didn't. He didn't. Worth, on the other hand, Worth, what you think? How do you feel about this? Or how do you think I might do in this? At least he asked.
No, he did not.
Well, you let me finish.
I will.
But
He did not.
he asked, he asked me, and everybody else, I don't know. But he asked me, and he asked others. And like I said, I respect Bishop Love. He's the senior member on this board. I hold him in high regard. And when I got asked, I asked him what he thought, and that was good enough for me.
Any other comment? Ms. Owens?
This, we don't need to get into personalities here. We cannot, to me, I don't think we need to rehash what has happened. I would gladly have served anywhere, and I always came to the committee meetings whether I was on it or not. Rejection is a hard thing to swallow when you really want to do something, and you really want to be a part, and you feel like you were elected to be that part. That's really hard to do. And so, so far as people asking, or you said, or I said, or she said, we all have the right to our opinion. And being the chair is a great honor. And it's not micromanaging or going out and getting people to support your opinion or this, that, or the other. It is about the 12 of us. So I challenge the two people who have been nominated. Can you bring the 12 of us together? And I challenge each of us as we think through this. Is this the right way to go about this, and is this the right person? And we didn't have the opportunity of a second person. I was asked by one person, and I had to think about that person and all that they had done or hadn't done. And all the things that Benji said involves every one of us and all of them and everybody in this county. And I think they're wonderful accomplishments. but they were done in spite of us. And I'm tired of being in spite of us. I want to be one of us. I want to be one of you. And I want to work like I'm supposed to. And I want you to do that as well.
Mr. Kenny, I believe you indicated you want to talk next.
Gentlemen, congratulations both on your nominations. It is an honor to be nominated and to sit here and have this discussion. With that being said, a school system always needs to move forward. Our society always needs to move forward. I had very good conversation with Mr. Richard about moving forward. And I've enjoyed having good conversation with Mr. Richard, even in times when it was difficult, that we could come together as two adults and speak about the students of Pitt County and the employees of Pitt County schools. And I have a great appreciation for that. And that, plus the 2 years that I've been serving with Mr. Richard and everybody else on this board, is why I feel, is why I'm supporting Mr. Richard's candidacy. And that is what I would have to say, and I want to qualify my comments by also saying I'm not taking anything away from Mr. Forbes. Today is December 3rd, and before we know it, it's going to be December 4th, and then every day after that. And we had to work together, all of us, and set that example of working together for our faculty and for our students. And I look forward to continuing to do that, and I'm very honored to represent the people of District 5. Congratulations to you both on your nominations.
Ms. Little?
I did not.
Oh, anybody else have any comment?
I move and vote.
I'm sorry, I think we have one more comment. I'm sorry.
I have some questions for both of them.
Okay.
Since I'm the new kid on the block, not new anymore, since March, I've observed everybody, and I don't have as much to go on as my other fellow colleagues do. But since I can, since this is a new beginning, I would just like to know from both of you, when we talk about, when we think of going forward in terms of the real hot topics that we will be faced with. And as I think about it right now, North Carolina General Assembly being a Republican governor, majority Republicans on the board that don't value education as we are trying to practice here, because they are looking at more charter schools, private schools, those kinds of things. What will your role be in terms of going to that General Assembly, lobbying on our behalf, or getting us to lobby with you to ensure that Pitt County schools can be in on getting some funding? What would you do in terms of going to Washington, D.C. to lobby our Congress people to make sure that public education is not left out? How will you handle race issues that you're going to be confronted with? And one of the things that I've observed since I've been on this board is that I have a real concern of what has been happening in many of our schools with adults. I've seen more adult issues than I have children issues? And how will you handle those issues with, with working through the superintendent? Because we're here to, we're the policymakers. We have a superintendent that implements that policy through her schools that she represents. So how will you help us, her, get things done as they need to be? So that's sort of my questions to both of you. Do you hear what you have to say in terms of going forward, not backwards? The whole issue of bullying is a big issue in our schools. I've talked to many parents about it. It's an issue. We have issues with our staff. In some of our schools, the principals do not respect all of the staff, I'm told, from many different schools all over this district, that, and I feel like every principal should look at whoever works in that school as a valued person or a role they play, whether they're the janitor, the cook, the whatever role they play. They should be a part of that school team, should be feel valued, and if they have concerns about what's going on, they should not feel that they can't discuss it with their principal without feeling that they're going to be reprimanded. Bus drivers, all of these folk need to be valued, because if you take one element out of that system, your system's not going to function properly. But if those individuals really truly valued each employee, I feel, this is my feeling, that our students would be better off. They would have better working relationships with our parents. So I just like to know, give me some feel with what you would do to help us build a stronger coalition so we could be more supportive to our superintendent, and whatever we could do without being micromanagers in the system. So those are my questions for both of you.
Mr. Richard, if you'd like to.
Well, recently in North Carolina, the RESAs, which are the regional service agencies throughout the state, have gotten started again. I represent the Central Carolina RESA with Neil Peterson, which was the former superintendent of Chapel Hill Carrboro City Schools. Probably one of the most forward-thinking individuals, brightest superintendents, and I think most of the field of superintendents in the state would agree with that. Neil has put together a group where we advise, give information about the MSL process, which is the measure of student learning, which are tests now that are going to be given all across the board. The state is giving no leeway. Starts next semester. In fact, I believe Pitt County Schools was one of the ones that earlier opted on to participate in that. Personally, I think that's a mistake, and I hope we can revisit it. Our district had given thought to it, as well as Nash Rocky Mountain. They've since opted out of it, because the thought process was initially, which was pretty bright, that by opting into it, you get a chance to look at the tests, kind of get some feel for where the assessments were going, and then that would give the teachers a little better chance at basically understanding what was going to be assessed. The state is rolling that out with very little forethought, and I think most of the people that have been participating in Common Core now, 48 states I believe, realize that there's quite a bit wrong with that system. North Carolina is running a lock, stock, and barrel forward with it. I am an advisor through Neil Peterson to the State Board of Education in terms of principal saying, these are some issues, these are some problems that we have. I hear daily from teachers, not just in my building, but in Pitt County Schools, that call me and say, you know, this is an issue. We know that you're currently working with it. Tell us what you think. Tell us how we can get some help, how we can get some relief on this. I'm not the type that's going to sit here tonight and say that we need to re-second guess what our principals are doing in our district. I'm not going to say we need to take another look at what our teachers are doing in the classroom. Our poor teachers are doing the best that they can under the circumstances. There may be some out there who are not pulling their weight. I would support that in terms of issues where they need to be reprimanded. That's going to be in the situation. But teachers and administrators and those people that are working in education today are getting beat up mighty hard. And I have a problem with the state legislature that constantly sits back and says, we need to take money away from public schools and put it into charters, and we need to pay for kids to go to private schools, that's an issue for me, because you're also taking that other whip and you're whipping the public schools and you're saying you have to do better, by the way, with less and with students that cannot go to these charter schools, students that cannot go to these private schools. And so, yes, it does vacuum out your top-tier students, if you will, and you're left with the students that are chronically struggling, the students that are on free and reduced lunch, the students that come from broken homes. And that's a problem, because our public schools are overwhelmed with the amount of resources that they don't have to support these students. One of the most glaring things, I think it came in our board packet, was a picture of the state textbook warehouse with a single pallet sitting there with maybe a box of books that are sitting there. The legislature should be embarrassed. All brand new curriculum, not just high school, not just English adoption, not just middle school, not just elementary, but K-12, all new curriculum. No resources, minuscule funds to do it with. I'm a mouthpiece for that every single day. But I think we've got to do better. We have to do better. And as I've looked at myself over the past 2 years, I haven't been pleased. One of the people, and some of you know, my grandfather is a rock to me. And when he looks at me and says, stop being wishy-washy, stop falling prey to these little traps, the Board of Education ought not to be a political sandbox. Some of the things we've done as board members, we would want a principal or a teacher to reprimand a kid in kindergarten on the playground. We ought to be embarrassed. And I am embarrassed. And I'll be one of the first ones to hold my hand up and say, you know what? I didn't do the job I ought to have done. And when somebody said to me, you need to think long and hard about what you're doing, I did think long and hard about it. And I wasn't impressed with myself. And every single job that I get up and do every single day, I not only have to do right by the 1,020-some students I have in my building, 100 staff members that I have to do right by my building, but also the students of Pitt County Schools. So yes, I do have double roles, and yes, I do work long and hard hours. But as long as I'm helping a kid, as long as I'm helping a teacher, I'm never going to stop. I don't care if it's midnight and 2:30 in the morning when my alarm goes off in my building from where someone's breaking in and I have to drive 30 minutes to get there and hope that I beat the sheriff's deputy that's waiting there for me. But you guess what? I'm going to be the one that's going to do it, because I'm not going to wake my custodian up to go and do it. If somebody's breaking in my building, I will be the one that's going to be there. And I take on that same responsibility with Pitt County Schools. I'm not going to ask a single teacher in this district to do something that I'm not going to be willing to roll my sleeves up and do. Something breaks down in the cafeteria, I'm going to be one of the first ones, health department behind your ears, but I'm going to be one of the first ones that's going to pitch in and help my staff get the job done. Because at the end of the day, if a kid goes without eating, that's on me. The buck stops with me. And that's the way it is. The floor gets dirty, custodian's out, guess what? I'm going to grab a mop bucket and get it done. Teacher needs something in the classroom, I'm going to be there. I'll take my towel off, roll my sleeves up, and get the job done. That's what it requires. Anybody that's sitting in this room that's a principal knows it's a 24/7 job. And if your teachers, I can guarantee you this, if your teachers see you in the trench working with them, they'll bend over backwards to do the work for you every single time. But if you sit there high and mighty, like you're the one giving out the edict about what needs to be done, and you're not there with them, they're not going to be with you long.
Mr. Forbes? Well, one thing is, to answer part of your questions, is you got to be a man of action. If you're going to be influential at the state level, you got to be able to go to the state level and be able to talk to someone face to face rather than by a phone call. You got to be able to express what's needed and what's not needed and not be ashamed of it. One thing that I've always stood for is public education. And I'm seeing what's happening in Pitt County. It saddens me. Talking about a man of words and a man of action, I went to a coalition against racism, and I was with you, along with Mary, and they told me I was the first white individual that has ever shown up at one of those meetings that they called and listened to them. I mean, people can say all of these wonderful words of what they're going to do and what they would like to do, but it's what have you done? I do believe in the things that you've named about the bullying We've turned our back on the bullying process. We've turned our back on the way employees have been treated within this system. We've turned our heads and said that everybody's being treated the same. But yet, when you have a school that has a party, and then after the party, you tell the custodians to go down there and clean up, and then you can have what's left. That's not right. Those custodians should be down there enjoying it with the other staff members. That's the way I feel. That's what I feel within my heart that is important. And lobbying, yes, that's important. And we have to be able to do it. We have to have the time to do it. And education needs to be first. We have to make sure that, number one, our employees are happy. We've got employees that are coming to work every day crying, upset, on every kind of field you can think of because of the way they have been treated. They've been treated by their staff, their administrators, the way the discipline is being handled within the schools. And those are things, yes, it hurts to say it, and people don't like to hear it, but those are things that need to be addressed within this system, and we haven't addressed them as a board. And these people out here and these employees, they've been screaming for it for years. Yes, they have. They've been screaming for it for years, and there's been a deaf ear that's been given to them. And it's time that they have a leader, a board leader, that will make sure that those issues are listened to and addressed. And also that the issues regarding public education is addressed at the state level and national level.
Any other comment before we vote again?
I believe we vote.
Okay. All those in favor as Mr. Witcher as the chair of the Board of Education, please raise your right hand. I count 6. All those in favor of Mr. Forbes as the chair of the Board of Education, please raise your right hand. I count 6 again. This time out of options is a continued discussion. Open nominations. Take a brief recess. Is there any other comment or discussion at this time?
I'll make a comment.
Yes, Ms. Little.
Since I've been on this board, since I've been on this board, I feel like that the position of the chair is something that I approached as like a job interview, resume, reading some information and all that. And I've had the opportunity to get to know both Worth and Mark on the board since that, so it was a little bit easier from the first time we had to have this election with me. So I try to go through the pros and cons of each person and why I think they should serve and be our chairperson. And for you, Mildred, I know it's a little difficult because you haven't been around as long and you're new to this whole thing. So I would just like to offer my perception on this. And I do think that the public does perceive this board as dysfunctional, as divisive, as a lot of baggage. We have a lot of baggage right now. And I think to unpack the baggage and to move forward and go on a new trip, if so to speak, is to bring some professionalism, a spirit of cooperation, integrity, and do it someone that believes in accountability, rolling up the sleeves, working hard with a lot of trust. And I put a lot of emphasis on trust. I do think we've made a lot of accomplishments, but we can't rest on our laurels. And that's kind of, to me, the list is impressive and it's good, but we can't rest on those laurels and we need to move forward without baggage. And I feel like between the two candidates and the two nominees that there's some baggage with Worth as far as some inter-board situations that went on with Mr. Kenny and other things, and it diminished that trust level. And I don't think that Mark has that baggage with any of us on the board as far as having that cooperation, that trust, the integrity, and holding us all accountable for our actions, and I appreciate that about him. So I feel that we will do business as usual. If we voted in Mr. Forbes, I feel like we would move forward with a greater spirit of cooperation with Mark.
Any other comment at this time? Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Let me just say this. When several people approached me about doing this, I thought long and hard about it because I knew there was going to be some misgivings and some upset feelings. By the way, I think Worth is probably one of the finest people that I know of in terms of his knowledge and just a good person overall, just one of the best people I know of. Fine Christian man. I could take some pointers from him. But when the other side talked to me about, and that bothers me, the other side talked to me about thinking about this. I appreciated that because I know that they looked across this table and for the better majority of every vote that I've cast, not 100%, it's been with the 75. People in the community could probably predict how the votes were going to come down. But that to me showed a real opportunity. Someone from the other side being asked by this group to be the chair. And I thought long and hard about that because that to me gave me a good feeling in terms of wanting to give something back and do something productive. And I think there is a great deal of mistrust. And, you know, so many of us, I think, came into this position with a totally different feeling about what we were going to be doing on this school board. And that's disappointing because, you know, we're supposed to be the helpers of working for teachers, working for kids, working for the community, doing what's right for education. And there's too much politics in this. I think teachers would say on a daily basis. I mean, politics and education, one, has no place. But yet, how do you separate the two? Because you're getting local money, you're getting federal money, you're getting state money, and everybody wants to say how their money needs to be spent. So it's a difficult situation. But I can honestly say, one, I respect Worth, and I respect all of you on this board. But it's got to be a time where we stop taking each other's votes for granted and saying, you're on this side, come on, you got to go along with us. It has to be on individual merits of a case-by-case situation. And when you weigh things out and you think about things, you're not going to hear me say anything negative about Worth tonight, period. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to say anything negative about any of you tonight because I respect each of you and what you've done, giving up your time. And we all have more things we could be doing, you know? But that's my only reason. It's not to wear the chairman's hat, but to genuinely say, to move this group together. I have some real good ideas about some things that we can do together that will be productive, team-building things for us together. Not just so we can all sit around here and sing Kumbaya and have a 12-0 vote. That's not the purpose, because then we just become a rubber stamp for somebody or something. But yeah, I want to see our district be in the top 10, right beside Edgecombe. But we've got to do things productive. By degrading each other, at the end of the day, when I meet my maker, I don't want him to look at me and say, let's talk about this time here. I want to be right and fully accounted for. And so I'm doing my best to make sure that I get that in order real quick.
Mr. Forbes, you had a comment next, you said?
Well, there's one thing I can say is that I have not called anyone on either side and asked for their vote. I have asked their opinion, but I have not called either side and asked for a vote.
And I either.
Ms. Waters?
Am I on? Don't know. Yes, I'm on. Okay. I think it's time for the board to consider our place in the climate survey, that teachers and staff members would point out things like board members making inappropriate demands on school staff, board members walking through the buildings on their own, board members who directly ask staff members to give information on central office employees and principals, board members with specific grudges against central office employees and principals. I remember when it came time to look at contracts on the senior staff, some of you were quite surprised at the feelings that had not been divulged to you. Board members who show up at the Principals Association meetings, board members who try to micromanage schools and tell principals what to do. Now, that all came out in the climate survey for 1 year. And so, and given that we have the lowest rank of satisfaction rating of anybody in the school system, I think it's time we all look at the 12 of us as a group. And obviously, the employees of this county don't think we've been doing what we ought to be doing. And we're doing a lot of things we ought not to be doing. It is time for change. Mark has proven that he can work with, by his admission, the 7, the other 6. He can do that. We know that. But the fact that he's been asked by some other folks on the other side means that we want to be led out of this kind of public perception. And we can sit here all night and vote 6 to 6. But we have to have some change. It is obvious to me that one of these candidates is acceptable to the whole group, and another of these candidates acceptable to only half.
Any other comment of other board members? This time I would suggest that we vote again. All those in favor of Mr. Witchard as the chair of the education, please raise your right hand. I count 6. All those in favor of Mr. Forbes as the chair of the Board of Education, please raise your right hand. 6 again. At this time, we can continue discussion, open the floor for nominations, take a brief recess, whatever your preference is.
Is there anything in our policy that allows for coaching?
No. This is a one-person office. There's chair, and then there's, after the chair is elected, there's elections for the vice chair. And Robert's, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Is it possible that we could amend that to accept one of these men as chairman and the other as vice chair?
I think you already have that process here, Ms. Waters, is that once the chair is elected, the next thing would be on the item would be for the new chair to run the election for the vice chair. I think that's already laid out in our bylaws right now, Ms. Waters.
All right. I'm interested in ending the stalemate.
Yes, I can understand. And our bylaws and Robert's rules calls that we go in this repeated cycle until the board can come, we have a person who has a majority vote of the quorum. At this time, I'd like to see if anybody has any more comment or motion. Ms. Cannons?
Well, I just would like to echo what Christine just said. I think that I know all of us want to move forward, and all of us want to do what we were elected to do, which is to take our appropriate role within the school system and help move it forward. We've all admitted pretty openly that this board has been divided into two groups, and it just would seem so obvious to me that if there's one person who has the possibility and the opportunity to bring everybody together and move us forward, and I just strongly feel that Mark has that ability, and I just don't think, I think he's the only one that can do that to move us forward together.
Ms. Council?
Could we do a straw vote since they're getting 6-6, and it seems like that both are wanted equally, so maybe we did a straw vote. Is that allowed by the statutes?
Ms. Council, I'm not sure what a straw vote would do.
Just put the names in a cup, hat, whatever, and draw, and since it's 6-6, it's equal to me, so I don't see it's 6-6. So could we do that and go for this?
There's no permitted private vote. We do have in our bylaws a process for ballot, but the people would have to sign their name, so it would not be anonymous.
Oh, I see. But I'm saying you have to announce the vote.
Yes, it would not be anonymous. You have to sign your vote, and that's in our bylaws.
Gotcha.
But normally in the past, the practice of this Board of Education is conduct a voice vote process.
My other question is, could we go on and do the other part of the agenda?
Unfortunately, Ms. Council, we
We
may not.
can't move it, okay, that's the question, I'm learning. We have an agenda,
But a good question, Ms. Council.
Okay, one more question, could we, well, I guess we're doing this, is it appropriate to thank our outgoing chair for the work he's done and give him,
I believe that will be done later in the agenda, Ms. Council.
okay, thank you.
At this time, I open the floor for any more comments from other board members or motions or other such.
Mark Wichard talked with me extensively about eliminating sides. And when we live in a community where the 12 of us were voted by our respective communities, the citizens of Pitt County deserve better than to have sides. And when an individual takes the initiative to say we need to stop having sides, that typically is an individual, if you look at the history of our country, who's bound to do great things. And that out of my conversations with Mr. Wichard stood out more than anything. That let us work together to eliminate sides. We implemented a school dress code policy not long ago in some of that spirit to eliminate sides, to do our best with socioeconomic boundaries. And that was a good move by this board. And I think when we, as a society, look to eliminate sides, then we are moving in the right direction because we move collectively in the spirit of unity. And again, that's why I'm supporting Mark Wichard.
Mr. Acting Chair,
Yes.
I think it's, well, I'll speak for me.
Okay.
I'm one of 12. I'm not one of one side or the other. Within the confines of that, we definitely have had our issues. There's no question about that. But within all of that framework, both of those individuals sitting down there that have been nominated have been tremendous men of character, honesty, and integrity. I know that for the vast majority of principals, that it is an enormous responsibility. We have 35, 36 outstanding principals here in Pitt County Schools. And I bet you if you polled them tonight, they'd all tell you, how in the world could I take the time and energy and effort that it's going to take and be in another county and be able to make the commitment that it takes to be chairman of Pitt County Board of Education, because it is a tremendous commitment. It has been brought up that Mr. Forbes is an acting pastor of a church, and that is a tremendous responsibility too. But within the confines of that church, there's an organization in place that provides for and allows for those members of that congregation to be ministered to and provided for, in addition to the acting pastor. At least it is in most churches. And Bishop Love, you might want to comment on that at some point, because you hold that official position, and you're a full-time pastor, not an acting pastor. So you might want to comment on that a little bit. In fact, I'd be interested in hearing what you had to say about that. But I know that when you work for a superintendent and a school board in an adjoining county, there's going to have to be a tremendous amount of understanding and appreciation within the confines of that to be able to do the things that we all want to do to move our schools forward. Both men can move us forward. I'm proud of both of them. I'm glad I'm not on sides. I'm glad I'm on Pitt County Schools Board of Education. And I've sit over there. In fact, I'm sitting right there. I've sat down there, and now I sit here. And we all seem to look like we're all one body. And we have disagreements, and there's no question about that. But I believe that both of those men would pull us through. I believe both of those men would be tremendous advocates for Pitt County Schools. I believe that the energy and effort and drive and the timing, that's important too. The timing that Mr. Forbes has right now, he's not a principal. He's not an associate superintendent. He doesn't have a full-time job. As a matter of fact, he even sells country eggs to the people out into the area and stays there all during different times of day. And when the chairman may call, or the superintendent may call, or his constituents call, he puts the eggs down and he moves forward for Pitt County Schools. It's a lot different in a school when Johnny just hit Julie and the superintendent calls and says, I need you. And you have to say, Johnny just hit Julie and we got a mess and I can't be there right now. And so
that's, I think, where we are. I'm excited about both individuals. I'm excited about where they've come from, what they have to offer. I do believe that in the timing and scheme of things for Pitt County Schools, we're in a better position to move forward with Worth. And I wholeheartedly continue to give him my support, and I will stay here until the lights are turned off, because nobody can write the check to pay the electric bill, because we're all in here waiting to see who's going to get elected. To make sure that at this time, 2013, in the history of Pitt County Schools, we can move forward with someone that is positioned at the right time and has the timing at the right time to move us forward. With that, Mr. Chairman, I call again for the vote.
Okay. If there's not any other comment, we are going to vote again in the order we have. All those in favor of Mr. Richard as the Chair of the Board of Education, please raise your right hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All those in favor of Mr. Forbes as the Chair of the Board of Education, please raise your right hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Again, neither carries. At this time, as I've said earlier, I'll open up the floor again for further comment, motion or otherwise, by members of the Board of Education.
Mr. Sonnenberg, I've heard people comment about Mr. Richard's employment. And I know this, Mr. Richard is a grown man, a reputable man. He's given me no indication that he wouldn't be able to give the chairmanship 100% effort. And I would also say this. As someone who not long ago had people attempt to judge my employment, unless Mr. Richard, because I don't think any of us around this table have gone and evaluated him at his place of employment, and that's not our job. Mr. Richard's constituents have put him in that seat, just like all of us. Unless he felt that he couldn't do it, then it's a little bit out of bounds for us to discuss his employment. And I will support Mark Richard to be the chairman of the board of the Pitt County of Education.
Other comment? Any motions?
Move with vote.
That said, all those in favor is Mr. Richard as the Chair of the Board of Education, please raise your right hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I count 6. All those in favor of Mr. Forbes as the Chair of the Board of Education, please raise your right hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 again. At this time, I will open the floor for further comment, discussion, or motions that any member of the board might have.
Mr. Acting Chair, just a point of clarification more than anything else, because I'm not as prepared to speak on behalf of Robert's Rules in this particular situation right now.
Yes?
Because this is a very unique situation.
It is, Mr. Forrest. You're correct. And we have anticipated this in prior years and have examined our bylaws, talked with the School Board Association, Tanis Nelson, based on our bylaws, based on Robert's Rules, based on the process we have. We continue the vote as we have until we reach a conclusion. I mean, the only options you have is changing your bylaws.
I understand that, Mr. Acting Chair. I guess my question is going to be a little different. Everybody out there in the audience may want to stay, and some of them may not. And they might have active parts in our agenda. So therefore, could we, by 2/3 vote, move to suspend the rules in order that we might place the election of the chairperson and vice chairperson at the end of the meeting?
Well, first, you cannot suspend bylaws. By Robert's rules, you can only modify them. Our bylaws, 1.105, paragraph C, says, at the annual organizational meeting, the superintendent or board attorney shall preside until the new chair is elected. So, as you said about, you cannot suspend the bylaw. We can have, as you suggested, the board, if they wish by a 2/3 vote, amend their bylaw. But absent a successful amendment, this is the process.
You're interpreting the rule and the bylaw as separate entities.
No, I'm interpreting the bylaws right now. This is a bylaw that I'm reading.
Tell me that policy again.
You mean the bylaw?
Yeah.
Bylaw 1.105, paragraph C. I think you may even have a copy in front of you. I think I left a copy.
It's not in the packet.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
yeah, separate. I did, if you look stapled to the chair election process, you look at the first document after that, bylaw 1.105, and you go down to paragraph C. It says, at the annual, second sentence.
You got that.
Or do you want,
Yeah, give me a copy of it.
It's right on your table.
it's,
Oh, yeah.
it's right,
Oh, okay, thank you.
yes. If you look at the second sentence of number C, it says, again, at the annual organizational meeting, the superintendent or board attorney shall preside until the new chair is elected. And that is the bylaw of Pitt County Board of Education.
Okay, so the new chair, until a new chair is elected, doesn't say anything about the present chair, nor does it say anything about being able to, since the present chair is still our official chairman.
No, Mr. Forrest, I can't agree with that as the board attorney. I'm sorry. I think we need to conclude this matter out before we continue with the agenda. That's my opinion as the board attorney. That we must continue this process or otherwise modify it.
Sold.
I appeal the acting chair's decision that this cannot be worked out through our present policy. That's a 2/3 vote required for that.
Okay.
I need a second. You got a second? I got a second.
Do we have a 2/3 vote?
I know you can ask for it.
For what? I mean, you gotta ask, what is your...
I'm appealing your decision that the present
Yes,
chair...
I know what Mr. Forrest is doing.
Okay. Mr.
I mean, Forrest, I'm sorry. Sorry, it's been a long 2 hours.
I understand.
Okay.
Well, it's not clear to me what the motion is.
He's asking us to appeal what he's saying, that we can't move on. He wants us to undo what he's saying and to move on with the
So
agenda.
Billy can continue to be chair.
And move on with the agenda.
Until the end of the meeting.
He's appealing his decision on that.
That's
asking
clear.
for-
What you said before was not. That's clear.
So we have to vote whether we agree with Benji's appeal or not.
There was a motion and a second. Right?
Correct. And I take a
You're correct.
Okay.
two-thirds vote.
Which, what he's saying is that Billy will continue to be chair during the process of the rest of this agenda.
Correct.
After brief recess.
Well, we have a motion, we have a second. I would say all those in favor of Mr. Ford's motion, please raise your right hand, because I need a 3/4 vote. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Motion does not carry. And I have order in the room, please.
I just felt like I needed to try that.
Now, I understand.
Get it moving.
Mr. Forrest, I can understand your need and desire. But at this time, with that motion we've dealt with, I'd like to open up the floor for either further comment or motion that the board may want to do at this time.
A recess?
Okay?
No.
Can we vote on a recess?
The motion for a recess, do you have a second?
What does that take?
As majority.
Named a specific amount of time, Mayor, and I'll second.
I can,
10-minute recess.
I second.
okay. We have a motion, we have a second. All those in favor of taking a recess, please raise your right hand.
For 10 minutes.
For 10 minutes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I've counted 6. So that motion, did I count 6? I believe I counted 6.
Ms. Richards, you didn't vote.
No, I'm sorry, Ms. Counsel, did you vote?
I want to finish it up now.
Okay.
Absolutely, Mildred.
That motion does not carry, so as such, at this point, we'll continue with the matter at hand. I suggest if we have any further comment or discussion this time, before we vote again.
I just wish we had pillows.
Okay, at this time, I'd like to ask those who are in favor of Mr. Richard as the chair of the Board of Education, please raise your right hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay? All those in favor of Mr. Ford as the chair of the Board of Education, please raise your right hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Neither nominations carry at this time. I open up the floor again, as we've said previously, for discussion or motions.
Mr. Acting Chair,
Yes.
I'd just like to say as far as the job of a pastor, I've been pastoring here in Pitt County for 30 years. And the job of a pastor's able to set his own calendar. He can set his own calendar, move when he gets ready, come to meetings that he needs to come to, and what have you. His responsibility in the church don't hinder him from doing that. So I just want to make that clear.
Okay. Any other comment from other board members? If not, the pleasure of the board will vote again. All those in favor of Mr. Richard as the chair of the Board of Education, please raise your right hand. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Oh, his hand went up.
It's been a long night. 6, as previously. Again, all those in favor of Mr. Forbes as the chair of the Board of Education, please raise your right hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Again, both nominations do not carry. As previously, I'll open the floor for discussion, motions, or otherwise.
it is very good that we can have this sort of mature discussion. And this isn't a bad quandary to be in. I appreciate the spirit and the tone of this discussion. That's my comment.
Okay.
I don't think that swayed any votes. I'd like to pose a question to the group.
Okay.
Why is it that we're so hopelessly deadlocked?
Good question.
If you change your mind, we will do it.
Or you change yours, Benson. Or you change yours.
Okay. Maybe to facilitate discussion, do any board members have any questions for the two nominees? That's only to try to facilitate this process.
Well, I will say that I have heard Mark speak about the primary need for us to reunite and move forward, and yet when Worth was making his plea to the board, he talked mostly about what his agendas were as a board member, but I did not hear him make any reference to what he would do to heal and move us forward. So if there's something to be said about that, I'd be interested in hearing
The
it.
very first comment was to unite the board.
But how would you do it?
Unite the board, number one is to be open, to appoint everyone to committees. Those behind the scenes communicating without the total board being aware of what's going on. That's happening. You gotta be out front. That's been part of the problem. That's why you were with surprises tonight. And that needs to stop. And guess what? It's happened right up to tonight.
Was that question just for Mr. Forbes? Did you have it for also?
Well, I thought Mark had already addressed it, but Mark, if you've got something to add, that's fine.
I just, I think I've said all I can say. I think, we keep taking votes, and the thing that bothers me is, I know it bothers the people out here, and that's been part of our ongoing issue, is that we continue to erode the trust of our district. I think the comment today, Pitt County Board will elect a new chairman. Someone had put a comment on there, and I think I probably figured out over the years who this person is that's writing in, but dysfunction electing dysfunction. And that was probably pretty aptly said in some people's feelings about how this board operates. And that troubles me, because I didn't come on this board to be dysfunctional. I didn't come on this board to make deals and do this, that, and the other. And my only purpose to be here from this point forward, should be by some privilege to be elected chair, is to be fair, to be open, to be accountable, and to serve everybody on the board. And that's, to me, what it's about. And, because I can tell you, in educational circles, the perfect storm is coming. The perfect storm, in terms of what we saw weather-wise in the Northeast. There's some big-time concerns coming in education.
I have a question.
Ms. Council?
Can our bylaws be amended to have co-chairs? Since it's a continuous tie of the way we're voting, could we amend the board to have co-chairs? And if we did, would you all be willing to work together, since you're both so great, and that you can lead us forward, and we have two people coming together as a team? Could could we do that first of all? And if we could, would you be willing to work together and really take us to where we need to go as the twins?
Well, I'm glad that you put me to the age of Mark.
Can it be done, first of all? Can the board amend this bylaws to do that? And if they could and did, could you have co-chairs? Has it ever been done in the system?
I've never heard of that, Ms. Council, but
Could we be the first to do it?
these are your bylaws.
Okay.
I mean, you set the rules. I've never heard of it. I have maybe some concerns also about if there's a final decision, if there's not a consensus of the two about, if there are disagreement about how action would be taken. But these are your bylaws. I've never heard of it, but you control the bylaws. You could amend them by a 2/3 vote, as we've already said, but concerns might be about, in case there's a division between the two, about who would be the final say or voice for the board.
Second move.
What?
Discussion about that?
You have a motion, a second, we have discussion, I guess, is this would be a point. Mildred, are you making a motion?
I'm asking first
I'm
of
just
all, is that
clarifying. Well, I'm
possible that we, because it's 6-6,
Okay.
and it's very apparent that we all value them both. However, one set value one above the other, but it's still coming out as a tie. So why could we not have a co-chair, let one preside at one meeting, one preside at the next meeting? That's how you share the responsibility. Have a real long one to be split in half and let them work together. And since we have been considered so dysfunctional, maybe it may take two. It takes two maybe to help us to get to where we need to be as a board. So, I mean, that's, to me, seemed logical. If we could do that, and if we can, I'll be happy to make the motion that we elect both of them as our co-chairs, and they work together as a team, and maybe they both will learn from each other, and we will learn from both of them, and so we can move on to be the most productive board in the state of North Carolina, the most unique board in the country. Serious. That's a good team. I think that'd be a great team. I have been working with them since March, and I haven't had any problem with either one. They both have respected me, but I've just have happened to have more contact with Worth because his personality is different, and that's, that's just the way he is, I guess. So I've been able to call and talk to him about some issues, and we agreed on some things, and I have not had the same opportunity with Mr. Pritchard, but, I have no bones of anybody. I can work with them all, and when I don't like something, I'm going to say it, and I like, diversity of boards, and I think, and I don't call it necessarily dysfunctional all the way, it's just that some of us have different approaches, different styles of leadership, and I think we all here are concerned about the children in particular and the whole district, everybody, but we just have different ways of, different perspectives on it. But I think that the bottom line is we're here for the same reason. We don't necessarily have to agree, but we do need to agree to disagree. And so I would like to see if we can't break it, do a team approach. And I've worked with boards, not a school board, of course, but community organizations that, because there was a lot of work to be done, so we co-chaired and still do just as well as we did with individual people. I've experienced that. So it can work. Doesn't follow with, and I just think if they're challenged, since they both have so much to offer us, that they co-chair.
Well, Ms. Council, if it's your wish to recommend that to the board, I recommend first that you recommend an amendment to our bylaw that I've already indicated, 1.105, possibly an amendment that could serve your needs would be an amendment to paragraph B. The officers of the board shall be a chair or vice chair. It might be the officers of the board shall be a chair and/or co-chair, and then a vice chair. If that's, I'm just throwing out suggestions of a possible motion.
Say that again.
Well, basically is, what I'm hearing, Ms. Council, is she wants to propose that our bylaws permit that there's a chair and a co-chair. That's my understanding. Basically, you have two people co-chairing.
Co-chairing the board, yes.
And that, in my opinion, would require an amendment to our bylaws right now, which was, we've indicated earlier, amending the bylaws would be a 2/3 vote. So you would have to first pursue whether the board was willing to amend its bylaws to permit what Ms. Council is suggesting. So I suggest that you would first start off with a possible motion, if that's your wish, to amend the bylaws to allow for a chair and a co-chair.
Okay, I would like to make the motion that the Pitt County Board consider
Or amend.
consider amending its bylaws to allow for the first time in the history of this county co-chairs for the Pitt County Board of Education, since we cannot get past 6-6. And then we will all get what we want starting out, and then we see how they do. If they don't work out, then we just get, we will re-elect one of them later, if it doesn't work out. But I think it would work out, seriously. I was just teasing about it.
But my understanding is you want to amend, for example, like paragraph B,
Yes.
to allow for two co-chairs.
Two co-chairs of the board and then a vice chair. We can keep the vice chair as it is, but have two co-chairs to work together as a team. And since we're so dysfunctional as out there, that will help have two people working together. So we know we always will have our best interests at heart.
Who's going to keep tabs on
Is there a second to Ms., is there a second to Ms. Council's motion?
Good. I'll sucker it if you'll take vice chair off.
No, can't do that.
And have two co-chairs and not no vice chair.
Oh, okay. Hadn't thought about that. Let's try that. Sure. I accept that.
Okay. Do you want to amend your motion then, Ms. Council?
Okay, we'd like to amend the motion that we have two co-chairs of the Pitt County Board of Education. So we know we'll have someone working in our interests at all times. And since both are really, well, that's all I need to say. That's it.
Okay.
Two co-chairs.
Is there a second? Mr. Peter, you're
Yes.
making a second. Ms. Pymaby for discussion.
I'd like to ask Dr. Emery,
No.
okay.
I work for this board. You cannot put me in a
Okay.
position of doing that.
Okay, Ms. Little?
Maybe I should speak, I'm not speaking on her behalf, but I can only imagine being in that position that who's she going to call first? Who's she going to answer to first? Our senior staff. You know, are they going to be, you call me first, you can call me first? No. It confuses the matter, and it lends more problems down the road of who's really in charge here. And we need strong leadership to be able to step forward, and that is not fair to her, or, in my opinion, her or the senior staff.
Ms. Kamens?
First of all, I'm a little concerned that the way that language was read, that the way the motion read, it sounds like it doesn't say that a chair is preferable and that co-chair is only in the case of a tie or something. It sounds like we just, going forward, will always elect a co-chair. So that alone, I can't support the motion.
Okay.
But I would also like to say, having once been chair of this board, I cannot imagine a co-chair arrangement working in this particular instance. I totally agree with Mildred, and I think she's been very eloquent about the symbolic, positive image of the co-chairs. But I think practically, it's not workable.
Okay. Any other discussion? I've had a motion, and I've had a second, just for tracking. Sorry, Ms. Campbell?
Can I just add to that too? And it has nothing to do with these two individuals. It's the co-chair arrangement itself that I think is unworkable. Difficult.
Yes.
Jude, let me ask you this. Would you entertain the idea of just this one time? Just-
No.
Glad you changed your mind.
I did. Some of yours.
I'm sorry. Ms. Council, you had a comment?
Well, I just want to mention about who the superintendent calls. Well, she's a very sophisticated lady, so she just called them both. You know, today if I have one to call, I just rotate it back and forth. And they know they're co-chairs, and she can't. Well, she can call them both at the time. We have the robot system, so she can call them both at the same time and tell them what she needs to tell them, because she calls all of us at the same time already, does she not? She can call them both at the same time.
Ms. Owens, did you have a comment you want to make?
No, I'm finished.
Any other comments, discussion before voting? Then I would say all those in favor of Ms. Council's motion this time, will you please raise your right hand? 1, 2, 3, 4. I count 4 votes. Because it requires a 3/4 vote, the motion does not carry.
Mr. Sonberg,
Yes.
I'll make a motion that for the sake of these individuals, and obviously if they'd like to stay, but I know for the assistant superintendent, associate superintendent, and several others that are here, could we forego the remainder of the agenda until the next meeting, scheduled meeting that we have, and provide those updates? I just hate the thought that the staff has to sit and watch and remain for this, and I think it would be more productive. I would make that in the form of a motion.
I'll second it.
I guess I would ask just specifically, I hate to put Mr. Boyer on the spot, but I do believe there were some action items for the board that we were hoping to, can they wait? Just wanted to check.
I mean, my only interest in that is, I mean, what's going on here, if it could wait until the next scheduled meeting we have in December, which is not next week, but the next week, I think that would be...
The 17th.
Yeah. Very interesting. And that kind of accomplishes doing the agenda first and then going to this. That way we can, I guess, continue on.
Good idea.
Is there a second to Mr. Witcher's motion?
I did second it.
I'm sorry, I missed you. Any discussion?
Mr. Chair, just as a point of clarification,
Yes.
I think what Mr. Witcher just offered and what you accepted as a motion was the same thing I offered a while ago. Except in a different, in other words, it's the same thing. If you act on that, then you're acting on an agenda item prior to the election of its officers.
You're right.
So therefore, Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I would, and I know Dr. Henry doesn't want me to put her on the spot. I'm trying to figure out some things here.
Okay.
Would you entertain the thought, Dr. Henry, of serving as acting chairman of this board for just a minute or two, if you would entertain the idea of allowing for the agenda item to be moved to the, if you would interpret that we can move the agenda item to the end on election.
No, sir, I'm not going to second guess our board attorney.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I don't want to.
Well,
I appreciate what everybody's trying to do.
It's not second guessing, Mr. Songbird. I want you to know that. It's just, you said it was opinion, and everybody's got one.
Mr. Forrest, and you have some very good points, and you're very articulate, and maybe we need to reconsider this current vote, but what I've been instructed of the past in dealing with is that I am not an elected member of Pitt County. and it's not really appropriate for me to preside and govern over a meeting that's dealing with business other than the election. That's why you find me hesitant to go forth in any further action, as the acting chair, other than this election, because as in attending seminars, training, and then talking with other attorneys across the state, that's always been a matter of caution that's always been expressed to me.
If I might, I do believe, and I would just offer for someone's opinion here, that once you're elected chair, if it is 10:30 or 11 o'clock,
Yes.
you could then agree to table the rest of your items to December 17th or whatever date you would pick, once
I'm
you...
just trying.
I know Bishop Forrest is a very good point, and
I'm putting all 35 and a half years of policy, procedure,
and you may,
education into effect tonight to try to move us forward.
and we're all trying to do the best for Pitt County tonight, Mr. Forrest.
That's right.
But I would say this, that based on your comment, which I'm going to admit is a very good point, that I think we got to find a middle ground here, is that you're right, I don't think I can go forth with further voting on the matters, just as I've said earlier, but as Dr. Emery just said, if this matter continues to a certain point, obviously the chair can postpone the rest of the agenda to another date, and we've heard from staff there's nothing critical tonight. So that's where I would find it. I will say, based on that, Mr. Richard, I apologize, I do feel that your motion would not be proper, but as Dr. Emery said, that's how we will resolve this if we get to that point, because I don't think anybody wants to have everybody waiting here all night long. I don't think anybody wants to do that.
Well, I make a motion.
Has Mr. Richard's motion been rescinded?
Well, actually, I'm going to have to call out an order as the acting chair.
Okay.
And I apologize, Mr. Richard, I think we're all attempting to serve the public tonight, but I think the best answer is that if this continues, we're not going to get to the rest of the agenda. So if the public feels that you do not want to stay around, obviously that's a choice you can make. Ms. Camden, sir, that's where we are?
Maybe there's another way to think about this, Rob, because
Okay.
it says, at the annual organizational meeting, the superintendent or board attorney, in this case it's the board attorney, shall preside until the new chair is elected.
Yes,
Well, the new chair hasn't been elected, and you're presiding.
correct. But again, as I...
It doesn't say that no business can be conducted till the new chair is elected?
You're accurate, Ms. Candace, but I just said when we had the discussion with Mr. Forbes and talking with Allison Schaefer and others, matter of caution that I'm not an elected member. I have to be very cautious about guiding and governing this board and carrying out action. That is my concern as an attorney and not an elected member of this community.
So had we known that this was going to happen, we could have amended the agenda right from the get-go and not started the election and put it back. But we didn't do that, so now we're sort
None
of
of
stuck.
us knew this, Ms. Candace, obviously.
Okay.
Can we motion to adjourn and table the revote in the agenda to the 17th?
I thought we just, are you saying adjourn the meeting or
Yes.
this whole meeting right now?
Yes.
I think that is, you have the option, what I've stated is, if you want to adjourn this meeting to another date, if you feel that you need to carry on further deliberation or discussion, but the moment we come back, we're back to this item.
I'll second the mayor's motion. You need to put a date on there.
To the December the 17th. I make a motion that we postpone and table.
Or we adjourn this meeting to December 17th.
Just adjourning.
That's what I want to do.
Sorry.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. 1, 2, 3. I count 3 votes. Motion does not carry.
Go to vote again.
Okay?
Okay.
Why don't we vote again? All those in favor is Mr. Witchard as the chair of the Board of Education, please raise your right hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I count 6. All those in favor of Mr. Forbes as the chair of the Board of Education, please raise your right hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Neither nominations carry. I'd open again the floor for further discussion, any motions that any board member might have. Maybe we take a brief moment while the people who want to exit the room will exit. Okay. Open up the floor for any further discussion, comment, or motions at this time. Anybody have any questions, more questions for the nominees?
I have a question for you.
Yes.
Is it possible that we could, since we haven't come to a consensus vote with Mr. Forbes nor Mr. Richard, is it possible to just keep the chair that we have?
No, it isn't, Miss.
Why isn't it?
Because he's capped on 2 terms.
But isn't that,
His term is end.
is that a state rule or is that a local rule?
It's board bylaws.
But it can, the bylaws can be amended.
Yes, they can. But I think you would
I
have
would like to
to
set forth the motion that we, since we can't seem to come to a decision pertaining to Worth or Mark, that we amend our bylaws to keep the chairman that we have. No one is opposing his position, is written in our bylaws. Can we make a motion to amend our bylaws so that Billy will remain, Mr. Chairman will remain another year?
I suggest, Ms. Williams, a motion might be to reflect what you want, is amending the bylaws that removes the cap of 2 consecutive terms that currently Mr. Peden is subject to. If you remove that from your bylaws, then someone, if wants to open nominations again by majority vote, Mr. Peden could then be nominated on and voted on by this board, if that's the wish. I think the first thing you would need to do is amend the bylaws, which has the cap in paragraph D on the chair serving 2 consecutive terms. And that's in the bylaws 1.105, paragraph D. Is that your wish, Ms. Williams?
Yes, it is.
Is there a second to Ms. Williams' motion?
Second.
Discussion.
I would just like to say, since we can't seem to move forward, just leave it as is. And hopefully, we've all learned from this holding pattern tonight that we all got work to do, and maybe we'll make each of us individually to be better public servants for the next year.
Okay. Any further comment or discussion about removing the 2 consecutive term cap from paragraph D of bylaw 1.105? If not, I'd ask all those in favor of removing that 2-term cap from paragraph D of bylaw 1.105 to raise your right hand. I count, I believe, 2 votes. That motion does not carry. Again, I open the floor for further discussion or motions that any board member might have.
Mr. Chairman, I move a recess for 5 minutes.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, please raise your right hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I believe I count 6. Motion does not carry. As such, we open up the floor for further discussion or motion. If not,
Call for the vote.
that is appropriate. At this time, I would ask that all those in favor of Mr. Richard being the chair of the Board of Education, please raise your right hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All those in favor of Mr. Forbes being the chair, the chair of the Board of Education, please raise your right hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Neither nominations carried. As such, I open the floor for further discussion or motions. Yes, Ms. Waters.
I think I'd like to make a motion that we withdraw the names permanently for tonight, for chairman for this year, and open it for new names. We obviously, yeah, don't look so surprised.
No, I know. Well, I'm not surprised. I'm just trying to think real quick. Ms. Waters, I think that the only way it would be possible is if the 2 nominees themselves wanted to withdraw their name.
All right.
We can always nominate a third person.
Yes, you can nominate others, but now that these 2 have been nominated, I think they would need to withdraw their name, which each individually could do if they desired.
Call for the vote.
Okay? We'll have a vote again. All those in favor as Mr. Richard as the next chair of the Board of Education, please raise your right hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All those in favor of Mr. Forbes as the next chair of the Board of Education, please raise your right hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Again, neither nominations carried. This time, I open up the floor for discussion. Any votes that you, getting it wrong, any motions you might have. Also, as somebody just indicated a minute ago, one of your motions can be also is to open the floor for further nominations if that's the desire of the board.
Just to move us along in the spirit of unity and harmony.
You gonna change your vote, Benji?
I already tried
Just checking.
This would require bylaws change. But would one consider
for this unique and special opportunity, as Mildred so eloquently stated a while ago.
She did.
If we voted for one to be chair and provide for the other to be vice chair, that we, for this one and only time, flip it around for the next year and allow for that to occur.
But we hold elections each year. You could,
But the
okay.
bylaw would be changed for a one time only.
Okay.
That's the way I would state it, and it would have to be, we really have to make sure that we put everything, dot our i's and cross our t's just right, so everybody understood what they voted for. That would be if the two, that would be if the two very deserving and august candidates would agree to that.
Well, I think it'd be more up to us as people who vote on the
I just want to
bylaws.
find out,
You know,
if it's going to be
put it on
these
these two
we need to
individuals,
find out
you know.
first if they would even consider it before we put ourselves up for a vote.
I think it's a little bit unfair to ask the two individuals. That's just my opinion.
You would consider it? Mark, on behalf of the acting chair, if I may,
Okay.
would you consider it?
Would you consider?
It doesn't matter because it's up to the board.
It's up to the board,
It's
it's
a
not
question.
up
It
to
is-
them.
It is up to the board, but
It's up to the board, but one of those guys might change their mind.
No, it's not fair. That's changing the rules.
well, we haven't changed it yet. Yeah, we'd have to.
See how we can find.
Talk amongst yourselves for a little while.
What I like about this, Mr. Acting Chair, if I may,
Okay.
do you see the spirit of unity and harmony that's going out?
We'll take a quick break.
We started.
I know what he's going to do.
Well, we still have a quorum in the room, but hey, we'll take a brief.
A 5-5 vote.
Yeah.
Can't you call a recess? as
Well-
chair?
I think you need to go recess, they went outside.
I tell you what, I'm going to acting chair, I'm going to call, let's, just for the sake of bathroom, because I myself need one, I'm going to call a 5-minute recess.
Can you do that? That's not what this said. That's what this said.
That's why we voted down the recess twice.
Says it has to be voted on.
Well, what he can do is, he can call for it as acting chair. This is my Robert's rules talking now.
Yeah.
You can go back.
Well,
Wait a minute, because I kind of know, I think, what the deal is.
Yeah.
So what we as a unified body can do is to recognize that and vote it down.
Okay.
By appealing his decision to call for recess.
well, why don't I suggest this? Is there a motion for a recess? If not, I'll just take a break in place.
Good God, how many times did I motion for that?
That's right, Mary.
I move that
As the night goes along, is there a motion? I'm sorry, Mildred?
I make a motion that we take a break.
Put a time limit on
What
it.
time limit is council?
5 minutes.
I say.
We have
Okay.
two people who aren't even here to vote.
Well, Dave's left, so we've got a quorum, but go on the group that's present. We still have a quorum. All those in favor?
And I have a question,
Yeah.
can we no call for the vote during the recess?
Right.
Correct.
Yeah, correct. Well, there would not be. All those in favor of a 5-minute recess, raise your right hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and how many we got in the room right now?
10.
10. Motion does not carry.
I didn't think it would.
No. I'm going to ask if I could take a brief break in place. I'll be right back.
It's appropriate that I go back.
You better not.
Yeah, no.
I'll be right back.
Hold on.
I might have to drink another bottle of this water so I can use this bottle. Might as well have a little humor. I got about 6 jokes I can tell.
When I get there, whether you vote or not, I'll be here.
We got the vote.
Can we call for the vote? You know, the chair, acting chair?
When he gets back in here, call.
Okay.
Call the vote.
Okay.
Call for the vote.
No, Miss Mary had to go to the restroom.
Call for the
Call the vote.
Yes, sirree.
We are not recessed, and we have a quorum.
We're incorrect. We are recessed. We do not have.
We are not recessed.
We are not
recessed.
I'm sorry, that's what I'm trying to say. Jill, I'm getting tired. You're right, we're not in recess.
Call the vote.
Okay, all those,
Come on, Mary.
yeah, I'm trying to be fair. Well, I'm trying to be fair. All those in favor of Mr. Witcher as the chair of the Board of Education, please raise your right hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. All those in favor of Mr. Forbes as the chair of Board of Education, please raise your right hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Neither nominations carried.
So you can't go to the bathroom.
No, you can't.
Turn it back for a second.
No.
I'll hold you down.
I don't see nothing funny about it. I'm beyond laughter.
My daddy told me a long time ago, you might as well laugh and cry about it.
I know, right? But they ain't gonna let them quit. So I guess if I leave the room again, they'll try to do another vote. But let me put the water down.
The same thing's gonna happen if
I'm moving to the middle of the council, be the sergeant of arms.
Okay. Tom, did y'all have this kind of problem this morning?
Who was acting this morning? Who's the new chair of the county commission?
Jimmy Gary.
Who's vice chair?
Jimmy Gary is his chair.
Who's vice chair?
Mark Owen.
That's his third time, and fourth time? Mark Owen, fourth time, isn't it?
I don't know.
Okay.
No, Mark has never served as vice chair before.
Chairman though for 2 or 3 times, right?
Yes, but he has never served as vice chair. He's highly honored.
Bye, son.
Oh, well.
Any further discussion? Motions?
We just sit right here for a minute. Those guys are working it out for us.
I wish they would work it out to be co-chairs. I think it's really good.
Okay, well, here, read some, no, somebody else.
If they came back and said that, would you all vote for it? I think that's one of their options.
I can't support that. I mean, that's just me, Mildred. I don't know. It's just based on my experience as chair. It's only one problem, I think another one.
I don't think so. Team building, team building.
with A and B. If I think I know where you're going.
Well, we're going to have to do this.
All right.
I have a question. Have we had a recent, within the last year, a recent retreats just for the board to really maybe get to know, understand each other on a more levels and develop? Have you all done that?
We tried.
Have you ever done that?
We've had retreats.
Just one meeting?
We've had retreats in times past. We have not had a retreat in the last.
Yeah, we did. Wasn't it in January?
We
went out to...
Oh, that's right, Yankee Hall Plantation, one day. Yeah, you're right.
The North High School Board Association facilitator.
Okay. Sound like we might need another one.
Everybody's got their phone going. I know I cannot find mine.
Most organizations of this size have at least maybe
My new phone that
I think we need something because we used to have them every year and then when that started
between my car and here. I'm hoping it's in my car.
I think we just want to go down that, but we did do that.
No. Deadlocked. Deadlocked.
They working something out. Y'all be part.
We ain't done anything yet.
Facilitate and control that.
No.
They have no ground use.
Well, yeah, but
We're still meeting right now.
there's some very deep division here.
Why not? Because but you all want to do that.
Oh, no.
Why didn't? I mean, why couldn't you all have worked it out? Huh? Well, why didn't you go to him? Okay. So you all have forgiven each other and moved forward?
I'm cooking for the administrators in the morning.
What time are you starting?
8 o'clock. That doesn't have to do anything.
Now that we have 2 nominees back, is there any further discussion?
Call the vote.
Motion?
Something to say.
I'd like to have a discussion. Worth and I, in the sake of working together, would like to propose an opportunity for this board. For this year, I would serve as chair, Worth would serve as vice chair, and for next year, there would be a flip arrangement in terms of serving together. I know to some that may not be the most amenable decision, but Worth and I have agreed that there may be occasion, particularly this year, that I may need to be away for a meeting, It's not uncalled for or unheard of for chairman to not be in. That's the purpose of the vice chair. And I'm sure there would be that occasion next school year, or next fiscal year. But I think Worth knows me, and I think Worth knows, or I know Worth, and I know his heart's in the right place, and I hope Worth knows my heart's in the right place. But I think in the interest of expediting this for this board, and certainly for the staff and individuals that are still here, we can make that work this year.
And we're both saying that there could not be any additional changing of the bylaws next year within that motion. That at the end of his term, next December, I will become chair and he would be vice chair. And for this first year, for the sake of unity, I have said that I would be vice chair. But next year, it would flip.
Okay.
I guess I put that in the form of a motion.
Basically, we're working out a 2-year.
You have to amend.
Mr. Chair.
Yes. Looking at 1.105.
I understand. I think I might have something here.
Okay.
Don't mess this up, did you?
I'm trying to get by a 2/3 vote if we do it one way, and be able to handle it with a majority vote if we do it another way. Now, you don't have to rule on this.
I understand, I'm listening.
I move that we nominate Mark Richard as chair and Worth Forbes as vice chair for the 2013 school year, and that we nominate Worth as the chair and Mark as the vice chair for the 2014 school year, as provided by the officers of the board shall be a chair and vice chair in that order. And I did it in that order.
Okay.
Second,
And you're saying this is just a one-time?
Exactly.
Yeah.
You still got to look at
You
that.
still got to look at A. You've got, on the first Monday of each December, the board shall organize and elect its officers from its members. We're going to have to modify A, as Dr. Emery just correctly pointed out to me. Because I guess we're looking at the first Monday,
December.
I'd say,
Well, then,
Mr. Chair,
friendly amendment.
Mr. Forrest, if I don't mind, just to save us this, I mean, if the rest of the board's not going to be in favor of it, there's no need in us continuing down this path, but can we just have a discussion on this, just to say yes or no, so we can save the semantics of spending 20 minutes looking into this, and then we find out it doesn't pass. So let's see where we are with that and go forward.
you want to just have a discussion?
Well, I wouldn't even say necessarily a discussion, but just yea or nay. I mean, let's see where we are.
I'm confused in how we can commit a future vote.
Well, I would ask in my discussion piece on it, in deference to those that supported me, that in the spirit of togetherness, that we work through this and make it happen. I would ask that the board know that Worth and I had a very good, gentlemanly-like discussion, and Worth was gracious in his discussion, and it's just where I am.
So, just for clarification, it would be just there'd still have to be a vote a year from now.
No.
So that's negating a nomination for next year if we don't,
We're fast-forwarding
if
to
the
that.
board is not in a good place where we might want to be, and there would negate that vote, that nomination and vote?
Or happen, I mean, things happen, people move, I mean, it may not be the same 12 people a year from now. I'm not sure how you can commit a future,
Chair.
that's what I'm wanting to hear, how you would even go about doing that.
My nomination would be, if you would accept a friendly amendment to that nomination, it would go from the first Monday in December so that it would comply with A of our policy. What you would have to rule on is if indeed you would accept that. If you would, then you would have to be liberal in your ruling to be able to say that we have provided for the election of those officers for that year, which we are actually doing in kind tonight.
Yes. I would think it's something like I've heard listening to all of you that this would be a one-time thing. So it might be that you put in there for the year of 2013 and for 2014 only, that the nomination for chair, well, the nominee, you have two nominees. One would be sorry, I'm trying to think this out myself at this hour, be a nominee for the person who'd be the chair the first year, and then vice chair the second year. And then you have a second nominee for those 2 years only, who for the first year would be the vice chair, and then the chair of the Board of Education, but to indicate that it was only for those 2 years only, because I'm hearing is that this would be a one-time special event. I'm only trying to articulate what I think I'm hearing. I'm not putting any vote of my own behind it.
I think that's correct.
That's correct, and I did agree for the first year to be vice chair. In unit, to keep it, to try to unify the board.
Will you accept that nomination?
Maybe Ms. Cameron said a comment? Or Mildred?
I think that would be a good idea if they have agreed to do that, since they're both tied as nominees. And I would be willing to support that, because that would give similar to what I was trying to get through first, but it's not quite the same, but at least both will have a chance to serve, and we can really see their leadership. And we're going to work together as a team, and so I think that will be.
Yes, Mr. Ford.
And again, we will be working together this entire year.
You work together as a team, right? To co-in some things, even though you're called chair and vice chair, which I can do with that.
Any further discussion? Mr. Kenny?
For me, I'm not willing to give up my future vote. I wouldn't be willing to. We have this bylaw that says on the first day of each December, I'm not willing to go ahead and forfeit my vote for the first Monday in December 2013.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
he wouldn't be forfeiting his vote, he would just be voting early.
Well, it's his opinion.
Yeah.
So it basically, next year will just be like a mock trial or a mock vote, because the vote has already been done this evening. So you would really not be able to, if in fact the board changed or whatever, or I wasn't here anymore, or whomever, then that person would not have the value of their vote, right? And in fact, if I were not here and someone else was chosen to represent the 4th District, then they wouldn't have the privilege of pleasure of a vote.
Well, if I may,
Yes.
my mind has just, I'm in the parliamentary procedure mode now, Barbara.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
My mind would be that that same logic would hold for anything in the future. For example, if you voted for, I don't know, something to happen that occurs over a series of years, and then for whatever reason you got off the board and a new person came in, then you would by forfeit that new person, some of those procedures and policies would have been put in place in a prior board.
but it would, but it would never be this opportunity to vote for chair of the board.
This is the one finite vote that we take.
Yes, that is.
That isn't something that is in perpetuity.
Yeah,
It's a
that is
one-year
true.
thing.
Well, I tell you what you could do, which would show unity and harmony, which is what we all aspire to. You can place in there a motion that may be changed by a 2/3 vote, and then that way, it would take a super majority to stop that from occurring, but it could occur.
And my one worry is that as a vice chairperson, it also cuts the rest of you out of that opportunity to serve in an officer's position. And, there are 12 leaders here.
Well, it wouldn't if we put in the, if I may, Mr. Acting Chair.
Yes.
I'm not supposed to talk with 2 times between motions.
Mr. Forrest, we're well beyond that.
There's not a motion on the floor.
We're not a motion on.
Between motions. I'm not supposed to.
Well, go on.
It would make it more difficult, but it wouldn't prevent anybody from doing it if somebody could prescribe for 2/3 majority of those present to change it.
We're not too good with that kind of thing with the majority, so.
But Barbara gives us a chance to grow and to practice. I've been very impressed with our board from the standpoint that we've grown up a lot just in parliamentary ability skills. And this would give us an opportunity to practice that, put that in place, and provide for us to do all due diligence to make it work.
Mr. Sonnenberg, there's not a motion on the table currently, is that correct?
I believe not. I think we've been discussing a possible.
Well, I nominated those 2.
Oh, I didn't know there was a motion.
But we don't have a process yet. I think, Mr. Forrest, you being one of the parliamentarians, understand that we've got to have a process before we implement it.
My process was for you to rule liberally within the confines of what we've got now. And allow for the board to provide, otherwise you're going to have a 2/3 vote.
I think you're going to have a 2/3 vote, Mr. Forrest. I hear where you're going. I commend your efforts. It's very articulate, but I think it's going to require us doing a 2/3 vote.
Let's do it.
Do y'all want to, Mr. Acting Chair, do y'all want to go back outside and talk another minute or 2?
No.
Can you give us a topic?
Yeah. I got in mind that I don't think we'll need a 2/3 vote on it. Whenever you serve 6 months and the other serve the other 6. And you put within the confines of that 1 year, and I think it makes that happen. Because it says that we may nominate the chairman first and then the vice chair. It doesn't say one has to be elected first. And Mr. Chair, I would recommend that you rule that way.
Yes.
They'll be elected in that order.
Shall be elected in that order.
It does say that?
Yes. Ms. Camus is right. Look at the end of B.
Well, it still would be elected in that order.
Right.
Doesn't say it has to be elected separately.
I believe the 10 is that we do chair and vice chair elected in that order. I believe that was a 10 to the original bylaw. We have gone into something that is novel, as I think Mr. Forrest would admit, to be cautious because I'm going to be asked if I could take a 5-minute to go out of the room. I want to check something in the North Carolina statute about electing officers. I have a thought, and I want to make sure before I guide this board even further that we are legal in that.
If you got a thought, that'll help prove it.
Well, I want to go check a statute if I could for 1 minute, because we are in an area, I did not anticipate tonight.
Let me, just-
Yes.
and this is to all the board members and to the public. Mark and I are trying to work together
Yes.
to get this solved and to get through this. And I think it's only unique, and it shows what this board, if you truly want to work together,
Amen, brother.
you
Yes.
will do, or at least respect our wishes.
That could not be said any better.
I would like to, and separate from any personalities here, I am concerned about us committing a year from now to a vote that is supposed to take place then, and that could be a different cast of characters.
If you
I
keep
think
it,
it's a dangerous precedent to set.
if you keep it within the confines of the year and that one be 6 and the other 6, that answers that concern.
That's right.
It takes care of that.
Well, let's first,
Let's first, I think Mr. Sonnenberg wants to really feel comfortable about everything.
yes. Well, if we're keeping it 1 year, I'm all right. The fear I had, Mr. Forrest, is that I want to go check. If we started binding this board to a vote beyond the year, I want to take a brief moment to check the statute, because we're in an area I did not anticipate tonight.
Go ahead and do, you have my authority, but you got a little more people. Right?
Yes, well,
You're saying confines of 1 year.
well, we go outside the confines of a year.
You're saying,
Let's say,
if you keep it 1 year,
I'm all right if we stay within a year.
Do it for Mark.
Why, you want to make?
Okay, then let me make another nomination.
Okay.
I nominate Mark Richard as chairman.
I mean, we got to check process, we got to have a...
Yeah, already.
Are you saying for 1 year?
That motion, Benji.
But Benji, I understand where you're going, but forgive me, maybe I'm anticipating. You're looking at making him to nominate for 6-month terms, right?
No.
Yeah.
Oh, you don't amend it?
They would not accept the other as being,
Well, there are nominations on the floor at this current time.
Well, there are nominations, but he's looking at...
but I took my nomination off.
Okay. But as you know, Mr. Parliamentarian, is that we got to look at process first. And right now, we have a process in our bylaws where we elect offices in 1 year in December. I think before you go down that avenue, you need to look at first changing the bylaw, if it's just for this year, to make those offices 6-month terms, if that's the wish. You got to get the process first before you try to implement it.
I understand. You want to go outside for just a minute and work through that in your mind?
No, because we're going to take a
No,
vote as soon as he leave the room.
You can't. He's presiding.
Oh, yeah, but you're a voting member.
No, I don't need to go out. If we stay within the 1 year confines, I feel comfortable.
Okay.
I'm just that when we started having a vote that was going for 2 years, and thinking, I thought, I need to check the statutes, because we're going down a road we did not anticipate tonight.
Yeah.
But if we're staying within a 1 year confines, but folks got to have a process. You don't have a process. You have a bylaw that says you have a chair and a vice chair that have 1 year terms. This board has to look first to see if it's a wish to change that. Before you even go down that avenue.
And you know, no chairperson is assured of a second term, because it has to be voted on the next December.
Yeah, well,
So,
our bylaw, yes.
Not to block.
yeah, so,
I'm just saying is we got to first look at process first before we look at actual action.
So what you're saying is, if we did Mark for 6 months as chair, and Worth as vice for the first 6 months, and then in that 7th month, we just vote to reverse that, Worth chair and Mark vice through December 2013, that we could do that without any problem.
We have to change the bylaw. We got to change the bylaw.
But I'm saying we have to amend it to say that.
Yes, I think you've got to have a process first, Ms. Counsel.
Exactly. Okay.
I
Yes.
think it's entirely possible that we can work within the rules we already have.
Instead of changing it again.
Because if we're in agreement that we can live with these two working together, and Mark is going to serve the first year, then a year from now, if he wishes to hand off the chair position, all he has to do is shift his vote, and it's a done deal.
But that's not what they're willing, that's not what some are willing to do. They're not willing to
letting the
give.
process
Right, they're not willing to do that.
Really changing the
One could
process.
decline to be a nominee for the next term if they so desired. We have elections every December.
I agree. So if we can find it acceptable, and I think we have, that Mark will serve first, then we don't have to bind ourselves into the next election if Worth is nominated the way the vote went tonight, and Mark so chooses to vote for Worth. It's a done deal.
That's true.
But it doesn't.
Not unless, I'm not buying that
We didn't agree to.
To do that, that's right. The agreement was when they came out of the hallway, now unless I got it wrong, but when they came out of the hallway, it was like Mark was gonna serve as chair this time until December. And then when Mark's term was up, everybody was gonna support Worth for the very next year.
Correct.
That's not getting ready to happen. That's not getting ready to happen.
Because we can't do it without changing the bylaws.
They do not want to risk their vote. They want to.
Well, I can appreciate that.
Right, I can appreciate that.
And so I don't think that the change, I don't think that the vote for a two-year period is going to pass.
Chris, I tell you what would happen though, because I can tell you were really trying to figure out a way just like I am for us to move forward. Here's what could happen. With a 2/3 vote on that policy, we put in place within the confines of the 1st December, which is today, and the 1st December next year, that this process will take place, unique and special. And then it will happen come July, the first meeting in July. Worth will take over as chair, and Mark will be vice chair. We can make that happen, but you gotta do it. And the chairman and the acting chairman is right. You gotta do it within the confines. And to do it within the confines, we gotta have one more vote. And you can do it.
And so then the second year, they was to switch back again?
No, this was
Just for
only
1 year.
good.
Well, I'm not for a 6-month vote. I understand your logic.
Okay.
Because logically, as chairperson, in past experience, it took a good 6 months to get acclimated to the system. And you're making decisions and all that. As a chairperson, I can tell you that. Even as a board member, it has taken forever, no matter what you do. You're still learning, which I always hope I will be.
I agree with that.
But it does take that kind of a period for a person, a chairperson, to be helpful and be able to serve in that capacity as a leader.
I agree with that 100%. That's the reason why this is so special and unique and one of its kind. And Mr. Richard has got so much experience in the school board, working with superintendents and boards of education and committees, and Mr. Forbes has equally amount of that kind of time. So this one unique time, we just happen to have the chair and the vice chair that could pull it off.
And everybody will be happy. Everybody will get some of what they want. What it is,
22 minutes after 9.
some of us have been so privileged until we just gotta have it just like we want it, but this is a time, if we really wanna make it work, we need to come together bend just a little bit. They're willing to bend, and we should be ready to bend. Because it's not about us, it's about Pitt County District, School District.
Again, coming back in, Mark and I compromised. Again, we worked together. We made this decision to work together. And that's what I think that's what that will show the public that we're truly willing to work together. If the two people who are up for nominations, because very rarely do you have one that wants to give up at all. One's willing to be vice chair first year, and then one chair, and then flip. It can go for that 1 year, or it can go for those 2 years. Either way, we're fine with it. But we're willing to work together. I would hope that the rest of the board would show the public that they're willing to work together.
Okay, I'm gonna try.
Well, are we looking at the 6-month or the 2 years?
We're looking at making the unique, one-time, special policy
Bylaw
change to make this happen.
What is that? 6 months or 2 years?
One within the confines of 1 year, that one would, or that Mark would be chairman the first 6 months, Worth would be chairman the other 6, and they would flip-flop as far as vice chair is concerned. Within the confines of a year.
In other words, it'd be 6 months, 6 months, and then the next year they do the same thing, or just 1 year?
What was wrong with good job, we'll vote them back in again. They don't, they'll be voted out.
That'll work, Barbara.
That's equality, you all.
Well, at least we put it up for a vote so it can be on the...
On record.
On record. I think we need to
I'm
do
not
that.
here, this started out a while back that Mark and Worth both said, or Mark suggested that we all talk about it and see what the sense is around the table, and there's several of us have said something, but what is the sense around the table? I mean, we're not hearing from everybody.
I'm not comfortable with the 6 and 6.
Why not? Could I ask the question?
Well, I don't have the vote of confidence with Worth being the chair for this year, so I don't think that my mind is going to change after 6 months, and I agree that it takes time to get acclimated. I haven't been the chair of this board, but I can only imagine coming in when I did, it took a long time to figure things out, understand it, all that stuff. Again, I go back to the superintendent, not to speak on her behalf, but my opinion, if I was in that situation, I wouldn't want to flip-flop. I just wouldn't. So.
You might desire to flip-flop.
And on the other side of the table is what they agreed upon, which is that one would serve 1 year in the two positions.
The 6 months came up from y'all.
Yeah, that came up there, so that's still out there, which is where I raised the question that I did about the voting. So, if it's unity and clarity and not division, I don't, how do people feel about the other situation which the two gentlemen came up with, which nobody really said that around this table.
Well, I'd be more in favor of that.
Mr. Attorney General.
Yes.
Can I ask them a question?
Sure.
Are you all willing to do 6 months each, and then at the end of the year, if you want to run again, then we put you back in if you've done a good job?
Don't do that.
And if not, then we move on to someone else. But at least both of you would have the opportunity to serve in what you're trying to get to. Would that still work with you?
I'm fine with 6 months each.
Okay.
And I'm fine with the year each. Either one of those, I would work to try to bring consensus and unity again to the board.
Okay. What about you, Mark?
I think I could work with it. I think we have to come to some sort of an agreement. I think the thing that I would ask of those individuals that supported me is, I'm concerned that we're hopelessly deadlocked.
Yep.
And that this is going to go on and not be productive. And Worth and I had a nice conversation, and I think we did.
And now could I
I think
ask,
what we're working towards is change. And I think what you can believe is that, from my part, and I think I understand from Worth's part, is that there will be positive change in terms of a working relationship on this board. If that be the part that we're all working for, I think we should all be willing to give a little something. Worth has been gracious in giving. I think we just don't get productivity
Deadlock.
from continuing to sit here deadlocked.
Well, I, for one, if I saw positive change and I saw a good working relationship, I would support it.
All right?
But I can't commit tonight.
What was that? I didn't hear that.
Uh,
I didn't understand you.
I said if I saw change and positive growth on the board and a working relationship, I would support the switch, but I can't do 2 years tonight.
But I think the only thing that I can give you,
We're only talking about 1 year.
1 year?
I think 2 years on the switch.
the only thing I can give you is my word.
I know,
And I'm only worth as much as what my word means when I stand behind it.
yeah,
And
and I think that's precious.
and I stand behind that. And I think Worth stands behind what he said. I'm not going to speak for Worth,
Yeah,
but
I do.
I think,
And I think by us going out there talking, we're willing to work together. We're willing to try to bring this board together, the two candidates. That's what we're trying to do. Yes, it's unique, but hey, uniqueness stems greatness.
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah.
could I ask my board members of the other 10 board members a question? What's wrong with that? If they're willing to do it, can't we bend to allow them to try and see if we really want it to work?
Which one are you talking about, 6 months or a year?
mouth up there, so.
I had my hand raised.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mary, I didn't see you.
It's good, so,
Okay, Ms. Williams?
I thought the purpose of them going outside was for them to discuss amongst the both of them. Unless my dyslexia is kicking in, I thought once they came back in, that we were gonna agree with whatever decision the both of them had come up with, or at least give it a vote. And then, once that happened, nothing happened. I would go for a year for Mark to be the chair and Worth be the vice chair. And then when Worth's term came up, I would be willing to vote for Worth as chair and Mark as vice chair. Now,
let me just say this. At the end of the year, if I haven't done what I've said I'm going to do, I won't run for anything else. I won't run for vice chair. Period. And I've said that before this group. I've said it before. It'll be displayed on the TV. And then everyone will know I'm a liar if I don't stand by my word. But that's my word. And I've told you that. But I think in terms of us doing something for us to get beyond this point, because I know this is a strong-willed group. We will be here until...
So you gotta go? You just standing up for some reason? Okay. I would really love for you to say something to help.
What'd you start to say, Mark?
I just know that we're a strong-willed group, and I know we will be here until. And although I think I have over 200 and some days of leave, I prefer not to take tomorrow off. Let's make some sort of commitment. I know Worth has agreed, at least in practice, to this, and I have at least in practice to it as well, in theory, rather.
Well, I'm excited about it, Mr. Acting Chair.
Okay.
So are you going to entertain anything? And I'll try to word it best I can to please our board.
Still haven't heard from two people.
He hadn't heard from me.
I'm fine.
Okay.
Let's go forward. Waiting on y'all.
Ralph?
I'm the same way.
Put a motion, Bench. Let's go.
Articulate a motion of modifying the bylaw?
Yeah, we're gonna have to modify this bylaw, y'all. That means we gotta have 8 votes.
Correct.
Let's try.
All right, let's see if I can do the best I can. I move, bear hang with me now.
I got you.
All right. I move that we nominate, well, we're gonna have to make a bylaw change.
Yeah, we have to
I move that we change our bylaws for a 1-year period of time. Probably the better word would be suspend the section of the bylaws that deals with.
You can't. You can't suspend the bylaw.
Okay.
You have to amend it for
Well, you
2013?
you can suspend it with a 2/3 vote, which is the same thing.
Well, my understanding is you can't you can't suspend a bylaw. But what about you do for 2000?
Okay, let's don't make it complicated.
I mean, I think we can both get to the same point.
I move that we amend our bylaws for a 1-year period of time, consisting of the first Monday in December 2013 to the first December in 2014, to provide for the election of a chair and vice chair for a 6-month period of time apiece.
You mean December 2012 through December 1st, 2013?
Correct. I'm sorry.
Yeah, we got 6 months.
We're going to have work within 6 months. We'll make this happen, y'all.
Yeah.
This is not gonna work, man.
It will.
Mr. Forrest, I thought the gentleman's agreement Ms. Phillips and I had was a year.
It was a year. When they came back in the room, ran out in the hall, it was a year.
But then I thought, maybe it's been a long night, but I thought recently you two discussed the 6 months.
No.
Okay, well,
Suggested by Mr. Ford.
Okay.
It was suggested by...
No, if they're not,
Okay, and then I'll back up and provide for it to be within the confines of the first Monday in December 2012 to the first December 2014.
okay. Well, I've said that, Mr. Forrest, then I want a moment to go check the statute. I mentioned that we go beyond a year. I want to look at that.
That's fine.
I'm going to save 15 minutes in place. I just want to go check my statutes real quick.
We have a motion for a 15-minute recess.
Yes.
In a second.
Second.
Discussion.
No, that's okay. Well, I know, is it discussion? Do we have a second?
To do that.
We have a second? Any discussion? Well,
On recessing?
just recess
Oh, okay, I
for
wanted to ask
15
you
minutes. All in favor, please raise your right hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I believe that motion does carry. So we're in recess for 15 minutes.
Oh, boy. Thank the Lord.
In the brief 15-minute recess, I went and did some legal research. I wanted to pull the North Carolina statute that dealt with the organization of the board. Just because we were going into some area we did not anticipate that is untraveled. What I think is a key here is a sentence. As it says, at the organizational meeting, the members of all boards shall elect one of their members as chairman for a period of 1 year, or until his successor is elected and qualified. Now, what I hear from that is maybe we got to step back from our earlier discussion. It appears that this statute is, our bylaw is based on the statute. It's got to be for no less than 1 year. Now, the second part of that sentence says, or until his successor is elected or qualified. We're looking at something here that's novel. I've not heard of it in my 15 years of practice, but there is an interpretation that one could say that, or until a successor is elected or qualified, one might interpret it to mean that you could essentially elect a chair and then flip it the next year. But that is one interpretation of that. This is not tested. And I'm going to be straight with you. I mean, there's two ways I can read that. And I think in what you're facing with tonight, you have to decide if you're willing to take that interpretation. And that, you know...
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
In your legal opinion, from that, the law does not prohibit the action that was discussed between the two board members?
From what I have here tonight, I don't believe it prohibits it.
So will you accept a motion?
But our bylaws do.
Yeah, it's got to be a motion.
It's got to be a motion to change the bylaws, which is what I'm going to try to offer. Let's see, Mr. Acting Chair.
Okay.
I move that we amend our bylaws
Okay.
for a period of, we're talking about 2 years.
213, 214.
Correct. And get the dates right, the first Monday and the first, or last Monday, to provide for a chairman and vice chairman to be elected the first year with flipping roles the second year. I mean, you can clean that up.
Yes.
That's my motion.
So,
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion?
What's the required vote to pass that?
Be a 2/3 vote. That'd be 8.
So we would not have an election the next year.
Not for, yeah, correct. We would not. We would automatically flip. Billy seconded. Any discussion?
And that's basically what we agreed.
well, we got to get the bylaw changed, and then we got to turn around and nominate you
I
guys.
know, but that's
Yeah.
Okay. That said, all those in favor of the amendment to the bylaws, please raise your right hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I do count 8 this time, which is a successful amendment to the bylaw. What? What, hold them again? Hold them up again for Ms. Pippin. 1, 2, 3, 6. You have? Okay. Okay, so right now we have a successful amendment to the bylaw.
Will you accept the nomination?
What would be the nomination?
I nominate.
Wait, actually, why don't we do this?
They're on the floor.
Yeah. I think right now, well, they were nominated for something else. I would ask that, at this point, that you both well, we meant at the bylaw that your current nominations are going to be null and void. I think that we have to look at new nominations because you have one role. You have the first person who's going to be chair the first year, vice chair the second year. Then you're going to have somebody be vice chair and then chair.
Yeah.
So we have new offices, essentially, new nominations. Yes. Yes, Mr. Ford.
Mark.
Well, well, I think we've already said their nominations are null and void in this meeting.
No, we just changed the bylaws. We didn't say we were going to do it.
Well, we did, we changed the bylaws, so we no longer have these terms. We now,
No, that's not right. Whoa.
wait,
What was?
that's right.
He was saying that.
We changed the bylaws.
Change the Bible.
That was possible, but it was not required. Wait, okay. It's possible to do that, but it doesn't say that's the only way you can do it. If we wanted to, we could still elect a chair for a year.
Well, we just said this is for the two next years, 13 to 14. That's what I believe I heard.
Yeah.
Could I hear the motion again, please?
Benji moved that we amend bylaws for a period of 2 years, starting on the first Monday for chair and vice chair to be elected. Flip-flopping roles the second year. Seconded was by Billy.
We've still got 2 people nominated for chair.
We don't have anybody nominated for chair.
Yes, but because
It was on the floor that we originally started out with 2 people.
We still haven't said who's going to be chair first and who's going to be vice chair. Either one of them could be elected chair first with what we've got right now.
correct.
Oh, yeah, I see what you're saying.
I'm correct.
Yeah, that's correct.
But
Both of them are still in nomination for chair.
But they have a nomination for an office we no longer have.
No, yes, we do. We have chair.
Well, we have a chair who's then the vice chair.
No, it's,
Mr. Saunders.
Yes.
What we have is we do have those 2 nominees on the floor
chair.
for chair.
Yes.
One of us will withdraw, Mr. Forbes.
Draw.
And he would.
Okay.
He nominated chair just to be technical.
Have somebody nominate Worth for vice chair,
Wait just a
and you've
minute.
got it.
Just to be technical. Anytime an election is held,
Yes.
nominations become null and void. If I remember properly and correctly, every time we nominated somebody, we voted, we voted them down.
No, we didn't.
No, we did not. Neither one. Neither one.
Neither one of them got elected.
It's just, I'm trying to be fair and instead is,
Mr. Chair, can I?
Yes.
There's a motion on the floor, Mr. Forbes nominating me for chair.
I second it.
Can I make a suggestion? Can I just make a suggestion? If you've got 3 nominations on the floor, don't you? You've got the first 2 we started with that haven't been able to get a majority vote, and the third that does the 2-year. Did you not make that nomination and get seconded? So why can't you vote 3 times? Why can't you vote like you have all night, 6-6, 6-6 on the first 2 nominations, and then get to the third, and vote however you want, and quit? Does that make any sense? My 2 cents is actually.
no, I understand, but I think we're all getting to the same endpoint here.
Yes, let's do.
Yes.
I don't have to worry about what's got to come off.
Vote
and what-
6-6.
I mean, and then you don't have the queasiness of somebody trying to pull something slick on you.
Let's
Just vote for what you got.
Benji's motion include Mark and Worth's names.
No, I did not.
Then it's not on the floor.
The
only-
amendment was done, now what we're going to do.
Then we have to have
So what's on the
another.
floor right now is still 2 nominations for chair. That's what's on the floor right now.
And that's what we're going to vote on.
That's what we voted on.
But if you vote it's the same, if it's 6-6, then they're still on the floor. Something's got to come off the floor.
All they got to do is
Well, they can withdraw your nominations, withdraw your names.
I would like to withdraw my name.
That's what I was actually trying to get at earlier.
Yeah.
Because now we got a clean start. That's actually what I was trying to get at. Okay, well, this time again, based on the bylaws change, I'm going to open the floor for nominations. Now, this nomination first is for person to be the chair, the first chair, and vice chair the second year. just so everybody's clear. And I hear Ms. Waters.
May I nominate Mark Richard for chair?
Okay, chair, then vice chair.
Oh, we're going to vote on chair.
I know, but I'm trying to, there's a new office here. Chair, then vice chair. The cycle. Any other nominations at this time?
Question,
Yes.
she didn't say what year.
Well, it's the next 2 years. It's based on the bylaws we just changed, Ms. Council.
I'm sorry. I think we need to be really specific about what we're doing.
Yeah.
They're not a unique thing. I think the motion, and I'm not the attorney and I'm not the chair, so forgive me, I'm just trying to play mom. I think you've got to have a motion based on what you amended your bylaws for that nominate a chair and a vice chair for a specific period of time. And if you're going to flip it, to me, that's all one motion based on what you just amended.
All one nomination.
Well, that's what I thought I was trying to say, is that if you're nominating somebody, this first nomination, we're looking at 2 years from this point. The first year for that person being chair, and then the second year, 2014, being the vice chair. You think I'm being clear enough?
I think the more specific you are, and put the names and the years in there's no question.
So starting with this first Monday in December 2012, these nominations will continue.
To make the nomination.
I know, but I'm just reiterating, I'm trying to lay it out so we're clear.
I don't mind making a nomination again. I've been doing it all night.
Do the name and the year.
Names in the year.
Yeah, that's what I'm gonna try to do. I'm trying to be specific. Mr. Acting Chair, I nominate Mark Richard as chairman of the Board of Education for 2000, from this date to next year, first Monday, and then he will be nominated.
December.
No, then he will become the vice chair.
Then he will become the vice chairman from the first Monday in December 2013 to the first Monday in 2014.
Correct, that's accurate.
And nominate Worth Forbes as vice chairman for today's date until the first Monday in December 2013, in which he will become chairman the first Monday in 2013 to the first Monday in 2014. That's my nomination.
So,
Need a second.
but are you making one or two nominations?
I'm making one nomination to comply with our amended bylaw change.
Okay. Ms. Pittman, do you have that, Brenda?
Benji Forrest nominated Mark Richard for chair and Warren Ford for vice chair.
What's your
for year
second?
2013 as of first Monday in December 2012. And Worth Ford for chair and Mark Richard for vice chair for 2014 as of the first Monday in December 2013.
Is that correct? Those dates, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
She missed something in the first one though. On work. It said 13, 14.
Yes, you did.
She did.
Yes, she got it. She got it.
Okay. So we have a nomination for that on the floor. Any other nominations at this time? I have the point then declare the nominations closed. As such, we will vote on that nomination. Forgive me, I'm not even going to go forth and try to fully repeat what was said before, but as previously described by Ms.
You don't need a
Pittman.
second on nomination.
Yeah, no, you don't need a second on nominations. Nominations do not require a second.
That's right.
Based on that nomination, I'd ask that all those in favor of that nomination raise your right hand at this time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I count 8. That nomination carries. So, as such, at this point in time, Mr. Richard, at this moment, I will happily surrender this seat to you, Mr. Richard.
Just so that we are completely technically correct, those minutes need to reflect elected, not nominated.
Yes, they are elected, yes.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. And it's time I'm going to... Mr. Richard, if I will... I guess we already talked about it. Ain't nothing else to say. Yeah. I don't know if you want help. If I would...
Does he have to be installed before he can preside? Does he have to be sworn
I'm
in?
switching right now. There's no swearing in.
No, well, I was sworn in. And so was Billy. But, you know, that's up to you. You can do it legally or illegally. I don't care.
No.
He needs to be sworn in, right?
Why don't I just swear you in there?
It's illegal.
I'm going to guess. Mr. Richard, do you swear or affirm to uphold the duties and responsibilities of the chair of the Pitt County Board of Education? Okay, congratulations.
My first question would be, what is the pleasure of this board in terms of carrying on with the agenda for tonight? I suspect, since the others have stayed tonight, that would be an indication of their willingness to run with an agenda. I mean, it's 10:15, I'm a night owl, so the rest of you, could we have a motion to continue with the agenda? I think out of respect for those that stayed, it would be my pleasure that we
So moved.
continue with the agenda.
So moved to continue with the agenda.
All right. The first item on the agenda, I assume, would be the Pledge of Allegiance. Ms. Little.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The next item is a moment of silence. Bishop Love. If not now, we certainly need it.
Excuse me, before Billy leaves, don't we need to,
Could we have an agreement to amend the agenda so that Mr. Peden could be recognized prior to his leaving this evening?
So moved.
Can I hear a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Mr. Peden?
Yes. I have to get up early than y'all do. Now, if y'all want me all to call y'all in the morning, I get up, I'll be more glad to.
I want to get a picture.
This plaque is presented to you on behalf of Pitt County Schools, and it states, presented to Billy Peden, grateful appreciation for outstanding service as chair to the Board of Education for 10-11 and 11-12 school years. Peden, thank you for your service.
Right over by the flag. Got it. Thank you.
The next item on the agenda, Bishop Love, moment of silence.
Thank you.
Thank you. Routine business, next item on the agenda is adjustments to the agenda.
Move to approve.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Next item is public expression. Do we have anyone on the agenda for public expression?
They left.
And we're sure of that?
Yes.
All right. Next item on the agenda, spotlight on teaching and learning, presentation of advanced ed plat. Ms. Olmstead.
She's tired.
I'd like to say thank you to the board about, we received our advanced ed certification 2012, and we talked about it in some of the accomplishments, and the board is receiving a plaque about our accreditation. It's for 5 years. Also, I want you to know that our schools work really hard, and so each school got a certificate framed like this.
Right.
And so they're hanging that in their offices.
Oh, wonderful.
So, we say thank you for all the work that they did.
And that's from whom?
This is from Advanced Ed, which used to be called SACS.
Okay. Accreditation.
And they went to Advanced Ed. So, I don't know that. So, thank you for your support. Should have received your written report earlier in the board package.
Yes, we did.
Thank you, Ms. Olmsted. The next item on item number 6 is consent items. Do I hear a motion for approval?
So moved.
Mr. Chair, can we do these A, B, and C, please?
Do we hear a motion on individual?
Yeah, move to approve A.
Okay. Mr. Sonnenberg, would we need that in terms of
He has the right, for example, this is.
each item?
He can either, you can vote on separately if he wants to pull out one of the 3 items.
Okay.
Ms. Kenny, Mr. Kenny, do you intend to pull out one of the
Yes.
3?
Yes.
Or one, either you can
Which one?
just pull the one, vote on the remainder consent items, and vote on that one item separate.
Which item?
B.
Separate?
B.
Do we hear a motion for items A and C consolidated?
So moved.
Do we have a second? Second. Any discussion? Hearing none, do we have a vote? All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Item B, Mr. Kenny?
Go ahead and take a vote. I just want to make sure my vote's nay.
Item B, consideration of personnel report for December 2012. Do we hear a motion to approve?
Second.
Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Somebody second.
Council. And the item, any discussion? Hearing none, those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed?
Aye.
Next item, new business, Educational Program and Services Committee report. Ms. Olmsted.
Good evening. The Educational Programs and Services met on November the 1st. In attendance was Mark Witcher, Benji Forrest, Barbara Owens, Christine Waters, and Mary Williams. There were 4 items discussed. The board had directed some action to be taken with Abbott, and so the subscriptions had been extended. We are members now of Abbott. We have assigned a new district coordinator for Abbott. It was a teacher, and so we got someone that's not glued to the classroom, and so we're also checking into training for the principals. Those are 2 new principals that are principals at the schools where Abbott is going to be in. Basically, we discussed the budget, and of course, the budget for the 3 teachers at the Abbott schools had never gone away. We had kept the salaries, the teachers were there. There was not a teacher at Farm Central, but that's because they had resigned and not rehired yet. The budget had always allowed for the teachers to be employed through Abbott. The only thing that had been reduced was some of the expenses, and the subscriptions that we needed to join. So we went ahead and joined that, and then we have started to, Farm Central has hired someone to replace the Abbott teachers that had left, and we are getting ready to do some training with some of the principals. The second thing was we looked at the AP exams and results from AP exams. Christine Waters had asked for some information and some comparison data. Basically, Mr. Jenkins presented charts showing how many AP exams were given to each of the high schools. We talked about some reasons for some of the schools having growth in those numbers and some of the schools having a dip in those numbers. We shared some ideas on things that we may consider doing to try to increase some of the AP classes. Ms. Waters also asked for next year, which we couldn't pull this year, to have a comparison of the scores from students taking AP courses in the fall versus in the spring, and then having to take the test in the spring. So that was discussed. We also looked at SAT results and how they've been progressing. We also talked about the ACT, which is a new test that all juniors are taking now. Not in place of SAT, but that's what's going to be part of the new high school accountability model, so we sort of wanted to see the baseline for that. So we looked at that data. Ms. Williams had also requested some information about STEM schools and what it takes to have STEM schools. How do you get the certification? We looked into that. Mr. Forrest also said that the biotechnology and agri-science school in Washington County is a STEM school, and so he suggested that the committee invite Hal Davis to come do a presentation.
And so we invited him, he has accepted, so he'll be at the meeting in December, the one Thursday, to do a presentation on the school. We also decided to have a little celebration and some goodies, so we've invited some different EPS people to stop in and have some goodies with us. We invite all of you to come to the presentation, and so that will be at that committee meeting. I can go into more detail.
Well, that was very illuminating.
Can I get some of the information that the other board members requested? Could I get a copy of that?
Sure. Some of the data and stuff that we talked about.
Could we get a copy? That's what we talked about earlier.
Ms. Olmsted, just for clarification, could you let the board know who the district person is going to be in charge of AVID?
We asked Preston Bowers. He was an instructional coach at A. Grifton. He was also very familiar with AVID. He's an instructional coach for social studies for us. And so we asked him if he would be willing to handle some of that. And so he said he would. It's not a full-time kind of, so we think he'll do it anytime.
Very good. Any questions for Ms. Olmsted?
Good job, Cheryl.
Right. Next item on the agenda is Mr. Kenny and Mr. Bowyer in terms of operations update.
Mr. Aaron's about to lead us in the most illuminating and fast operations update ever. Take it away, Aaron.
Thank you, Kenny. We were scheduled to meet on November 26th. Due to a scheduling conflict, that meeting was canceled. A memo was sent out to the full board on November 28th outlining the agenda items and those needing for board action. The first item requiring action was, well, let me just give you quickly. The bus garage is not requiring any action at this time. The proposed buyer is still interested in the site, but is doing his due diligence to consider the property and any environmental issues, and will be considering that to bring to the board at a future date. The next item on there was one-time monies of facility services. In the budget, the board approved designated out of fund balance $425,000 of one-time project money and $600,000 for transportation. Both of those pots are being held in the anticipation that the property may be sold, to combine with revenues from the sale to possibly look at a solution for a bus garage replacement, and also the textbook surplus warehouse facility that we no longer have at 3rd Street. But within that context, there has come 3 expenditures that were detailed for you. An electrical capacity bank at Northwest, additional soil testing of the bus garage, and backflow prevention system at Creekside, totaling $56,000 of the $425,000. Those 3 items will need board approval of the one-time funds.
Move to approve. Sorry.
Second.
Do we have a discussion?
I just wanted to ask a question. When you did your presentation downstairs, and you talked about some funding for the bus garage, did you clearly state? Yeah, did you clearly state that? Because I don't know.
Yeah, we just told them that we did have designated funds that in combination with the sale would hopefully be enough, that we had projected a $3.5 million replacement cost. We didn't get into that specific.
Okay.
But they did pass on first right of refusal of that property. The next item was just an update that the board had previously approved.
Mr. Bowyer, I don't think we voted. Wait, we still have a discussion. Do we have any other?
Yeah, again, what are we voting on? What are we?
3 items that were outlined in your material that were needing to be expended out of one-time funds for unanticipated facility services.
$56,000.
Yeah, it's, okay.
Thank you.
I just wanted to.
Was there a question on that? Any further discussion?
I have one, going back to what Barbara asked about the bus garage. Will we have to pay for all of that?
Well, we're hoping in combination with going through the bid process that the property brings us some amount of money in combination with the one-time funds and the funds designated for transportation in this year's budget, that hopefully will be a revenue-neutral project and something we wouldn't have to put additional resources toward.
Because my question was, were there funds in reserve for the new bus garage? Because I felt like there was some confusion there.
There's $1,025,000 right now, and what you're designating is $56,000 of that $1,025,000 for one-time facility service projects with the that would come out of that, and the rest would be left in reserve for the bus garage and plus any sale of that property.
So a little under 950 would be left for surplus towards the bus garage in addition to whatever it's sold for to carry forward on the $3.5 million roughly replacement.
Yes, sir.
And that funding was, how did we get there, you said? How did we get those funds?
Those funds were designated and approved by the Finance Committee out of the county appropriation, school system appropriation fund balance.
Okay, there you go, Mayor.
Did you see that handout?
Those three, the electrical capacity banks, what you do, is that,
What's Northwest, yes, sir.
and the soil testing and the backflow prevention, those three items.
Why is it that one school got an irrigation system?
It's not irrigation, it's meeting the code requirement, backflow prevention, and Creekside was actually constructed in that area before that was a requirement, and now it's bringing that up to the current backflow.
Fire sprinkler system.
A fire sprinkler, okay.
I should have had five.
Okay.
Are there any further questions on those issues? Hearing none. Those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, Mr. Bowyer, next item.
The next two items were just, one was a brief update that the board had previously approved the GPS that's being used at facility services. There are 9 additional vehicles that will be placed on, and they will be placing a tracking monitor in their office so they can actually dispatch, monitor where all 36 vehicles that will have the system on it. A very worthwhile expenditure. What you also have here, and Mr. Wellington is planning to be here tonight, there was a pilot to put GPS on 25 buses in the Farmville attendance area at a cost of $1,700 for 2 months. $950 per month for 2 months, or 8, whatever half of 1,750 is. But the total is $1,750 for us to explore the value of having GPS on 25 buses in the district. We're proposing to do that in the Farmville attendance area. When we originally received this and talked about GPS, we were proposed a $300,000 expenditure buying the equipment. This pilot at basically $35 per vehicle at 25 vehicles. Buses would allow us to pilot, see the advantages of having GPS, track the usage of payroll, all the different things are outlined in here for GPS.
Mr. Bowyer, how did you arrive at Farmville being the pilot for that?
Just because of the sharing of the buses, the number of buses in the Farmville attendance area, the ability for us to really track by one attendance area the benefits across the board. If we scattered it, it'd be a lot of subjectivity into the placement of that system. But basically, with the amount of buses they have that are shared in the Farmville area and Faulkland, it basically comes up right to 25 buses.
Mr. Chair, I move we approve installation of the GPS on the 9 vehicles and approve the pilot program in Farmville. $1,700.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
I got one question. What was the total cost, Amy?
For the bus system,
Yeah.
$1,750.
Right here. It's on the next page.
Okay, all right.
And the last item
For this amendment, all those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Next item.
last item is 100% for informational purposes, but additional information we brought back. This group, Pirate Railroad, has met with us on numerous occasions. They're interested in the property that borders 14th Street and the railroad tracks along the Elmhurst campus, the gravel lot. It's currently only used by the school system to allow the facility workers that are stationed at CMFs that are ECU employees to park there during the day, and it's part of our overall lease with East Carolina for tailgating. But they were just expressing an interest. They started a number of conversations across the community. We didn't want you to hear about it. What their intent is, as I provided you in the handouts, is very much, if you've ever been to South Carolina, providing a tailgating atmosphere. At this point, we're not approving anything. We're just making you aware that they're starting some discussions with East Carolina, city officials on code. They'd like those cabooses that you actually see over here off Memorial that are behind the across from Guy Smith, those are in holding, that those are the ones they'd like to place there eventually, create that environment. But this handout provides you that if you've ever been to South Carolina, or similar. That'll be brought back to the committee in future.
No, but they got them in New Orleans.
What it looks like. Thank you, Aaron.
Next item was the comments by superintendent.
Just again, thank you to Jane for tonight and the wonderful artwork. It was moving for us also, and I really appreciate the thoughtfulness of our staff, particularly teacher from Farmville Central, to recognize the young man that we lost last week who had a piece of artwork here tonight. I want to say thank you to Billy Peden for 2 years as chair. I learned a lot from Billy. A lot has been said about positive things, but I also want to say one of Billy's strongest advocacies was to adopt a policy that allowed our students who were 19 years old and had the 21 credits to graduate to move that along, and it really has had a positive impact on our dropout and graduation rate. So just to thank you to Billy, though he's gone. I do want to just again, by way of positive news, say we let the board know this, but we're really excited about the fact that the feds extended SIG money. Our schools will receive another $1.4 million next year, and in the following year, a little over $700,000. The 3 SIG high schools and Northwest Elementary being the 4 schools that qualify for those funds. Also, just want to say congratulations to Avery Johnson, who attends H.B. Sugg Elementary School, for having her artwork in the North Carolina Farm to School calendar. It's a statewide competition, so we're really happy to have one of our students have their artwork represented in that calendar. I also just want to say thank you to our teachers. We've had a lot of discussion about that here tonight. We have teachers doing some really awesome things in professional learning communities. It's quite amazing. Last week, South Central had an evening where they showcased student work and what students were doing with technology, and their parents could come. It was just absolutely amazing, everything from autopsy analysis to claymation, what kinds of things are going on in our schools, so we're really proud of our folks. And finally, I want to say congratulations to our new chair, Mark. I look forward to working with you, and congratulations to Worth. Look forward to working with both of y'all in the new year.
Thank you. I guess my comments tonight would be that this was a difficult time for us tonight, and I think we'd all be kidding ourselves if we didn't come to some realization of that. And I know Worth's heart's in the right place, and I hope you will trust that mine is as well. And we've got some big fences to mend. We've got a lot of heavy lifting to do, but not unlike our teachers and folks in this district don't do on a daily basis. And I think we can do it together and for the right reasons, and make the people in our communities proud. That's something that I think people in this community that we live in crave more than anything. We need to work harder to build each other up, and that includes the community and having trust. And the only way we can get trust from our community is by our demonstration of our actions. And what's going forward. The process was ugly tonight. It was muddled. But I think we're better off for it, and we'll move forward. Mr. Forbes?
Again, I look forward to working with you. I'm glad that we were able to come to a consensus. I appreciate Mark and I going outside and coming back with an idea that was unique, but there again we were able to work together, and that's what it's going to take for all of us to be successful, and that is to work as a team, to give and take. And I look forward to working with you as vice chair and chair for the next couple of years. And I also want to thank Jane Ben, because if there's anything, or if there's anyone that's dedicated to art any more than Jane Ben, I don't know who they are. And she gives it 110%. And our students are able to express themselves through art when they can't express themselves other ways in academics. And it really shows a lot, and all you've got to do is look around.
Yeah.
And also, I want to congratulate Billy on his job as chairman. And I had written down about those 21 credits for those students, because it does help our dropout rate, and it allows those students to be successful and to move on. And I also enjoyed working with Aiden Grifton High School, their blood drive. They had a blood drive, and I participated in that. I didn't get blood, but I did get breakfast.
Did you eat breakfast?
Ms. Waters?
I'm sorry. Congratulations to both of you, and I look forward to good things. I would like to see all of us have a little bit of School Board 101 come to us, redefine our roles. I think we need to review what our ethics obligations are. I have some interest, people have come recently to our meetings and been disgruntled because they couldn't say anything they wanted. And I feel like it's important that the public understand that it would be a rare person indeed who would stand up in a public meeting and speak negatively against someone. And to allow that leaves us all open for libel or some responsibility. And so to even the playing field, you also don't want hordes of people coming in, calling people by name and speaking positively. I would much prefer to get the emails, because then I feel like I'm getting balanced opinion. But I think it's important that we let the public know why the policy is the way it is. Because there are a lot of our problems recently have been that they simply don't understand what our limitations are and what our job is. They think we can move heaven and earth, and that's not so. I thoroughly enjoyed the art. When the art disappeared out of this room, it was like we were in a vacuum. It was a very long day for us today, and I wished earlier in the week, when I realized that art exhibit was tonight, that it were any other night besides the first Monday in December. Is it always this week?
Yeah.
Is there a reason for that? A good one? All right. Well, I'm just putting it out there.
Asked me to tell you what that is tonight, but...
Okay. I'm just putting it out there that it seems like tonight isn't the best night. So, but it was a nice diversion. Student work always is. Thank you.
Ms. Williams?
Congratulations to you, Mark, and to you, Work. I have no doubt in my mind that you guys are doing a good job. I would also like to thank our former chair, Mr. Pitt, for his hard and dedicated work to the 19-year-old 21 credit policy. Worked very hard and diligently on that, and it has really impacted the lives of lots of students throughout our county. I also would like to thank Bishop Love for his service as co-chair, in spite of everything that has gone on this past year with him. He's a man that I admire, a man that I respect, as well as Mr. Pitt. I also like to take a moment to, thank our students and our parents for coming out tonight. I know I wasn't able to come, but our parental influence on our children is so important. And the artwork that not only within this room, but as you walk off the elevator onto the 3rd floor, which contains most of the education in this building, it is just impressive as a whole. and you look back, and I tried to even get in contact with one of the students to get a portrait of my daughter done when she was a smaller child. But it just fills your heart, and Miss Behan's dedication it's just there. It's just always there. Not only with art, but our kids that call her on a regular basis. And speaking of talent, last night I had the pleasure of taking my godmother to a gospel concert at Sylvia Chapel Free Baptist Church, and it was the A&T, North Carolina A&T State University Gospel Choir that came and performed. And sometimes when your kids go away from home, we always like, why are they doing this and why are they doing that? But they're getting their work done, so you just feel their party. But these kids, it warmed my heart to see some of our former students who were participants in our choir that just filled the room with nothing but love and joy. And everyone, I know the day I had my godmother, we just thoroughly enjoyed ourselves. Those kids lit that place up and down, and I like to thank Miss Ann Brown from the Simpson area, Granville Simpson area, for helping to get that coordinated. We had a very good turnout, and it was just enough to make all the parents proud. And the job that we do as educators and as those that service them to our community, when your kids go away from school, you do wonder what they're doing, but these kids are really doing some positive things, and they brought it back to show to us every first Sunday in December. They come back home, so I just wanted to put that out there. And at the last board meeting, I didn't have an opportunity to thank the students that was at Rose High in their jazz ensemble that performed. They did an excellent job. It just fills my heart to see kids in what their imagination can do, as well as arts and regular classes. So I thank them again, which I didn't get an opportunity to do so. And that's it.
Mr. Forrest. Thank you, Mark, and congratulations to you, and congratulations to Worth on setting a standard, a moment of history. we provided that this evening. We'll go down in the annals of Pitt County schools being a part of it. So I'm very, very pleased and proud with that. I want to congratulate you both for the outstanding job that you've done on this board and the continuing outstanding job of the expression of unity and harmony and building that kind of relationships. Continue to do that in our public schools here in Pitt County, and I appreciate that. Looking forward to working with both of you. Also would like to thank Billy and Ralph for their service as our chair and our vice chair. I was actually saving those that list of accomplishments for my closing comments, and did not realize that I would have the opportunity to use it beforehand, but that's always good and great. So I just wanted to let the public know what we did under their leadership, and appreciate that. Also, would like to thank Brenda Pippin for our present. I can't hardly wait to open it up and see what it is. I'm sure some may have already done so, but I'm looking forward to that. And thank you, Brenda, for your continued role as secretary, working with us as secretary to this board. It means a whole lot to us, and I have really grown to appreciate what you do. Your friendship is invaluable to me. I want you to know that. And thank you for always working toward harmony for our board. It really means a lot. I do have three things, Mr. Chair, that I would like to ask that at our next committee meetings get discussed or placed on the agenda. One is on the EPS committee, and I would like for us to look at this end-of-course testing as it comes to technical education versus the credentialing that some of our program areas have. It's on the agenda. Just want to make sure that that is placed on there, and I won't go into that any further than to
thank you for placing it on there. Secondly, I want to make sure that our policy committee, whoever you place on that committee, put on that policy committee another look at the way and manner in which our policy is written as it comes to public comment. I do think that at the last meeting, part of the issues were that some people were very, very limited as to what they could say. And some of that limitation was not due to federal or state requirements, but more so to Pitt County Schools policy. Some of it. And so I would like for us to relook at that, take a look at it, and make that policy as liberal as we possibly can without jeopardy to ourselves, so that our public feels free to be able to come before us and make comments that in some cases might temper, if you will, some of the contentiousness that may have developed otherwise. So I really would appreciate if we would do that. And then we've still got on our agenda for finance about field trips. I really am looking forward to working with ways to see, Mr. Chair and Mr. Vice Chair both, ways that we can improve on being able to find some resources to make that happen. And then finally, I want to wish a very, very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year to all of the citizens of Pitt County, all of the faculty and staff of Pitt County Schools, all of the students and parents and everyone involved and everybody around this table this evening. I think that in the beginning, if we could use tonight as sort of an example, we might not have started well, but we sure did finish well. And you know, it's not a lot of times how you begin something. The character and the real inspiration comes with how you end it. And so I feel like we did some invaluable things tonight, particularly in the season of peace, joy, and goodwill to all. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Ms. Council.
Okay, I also would like to say too, thanking our outgoing chairs and co-chairs, Mr. Billy Keaton and Bishop Rath Love, for their service to the board, and congrats to our new chair, Mr. Richard, and co-chair, Mr. Forbes. And I know we're going to do